Hey folks, Brian here. Today, my new Trey Magnifique holiday EP, Let It Blow, is out. You can get it on vinyl. I did a 10-inch for it. And you can come see me do holiday shows in LA on December 4th, Boston on December 6th, and New York on December 7th. Go to treymagnifique.com. That's TREYMAGNIFIQUE.com for everything, for the album, for the tickets, for everything. Also, we've got a video version of this episode, as we usually do, patreon.com/late night. All right, enjoy the show with the amazing George Hrab, who's back for a triumphant third visit. I really prepared nothing except listening to the album, but I don't know. I feel like
that's a big deal. I mean, that's like listening to it is. Anymore, you know what it's like when you send something to someone.
Yeah,
that you're like you've spent your whole soul investing into. Like you've poured yourself into this thing, and you send it to someone, and like no response.
Dude. So the album I sent you. It was I was sending that to a bunch of people,
right?
And it's, I'd say 75%, just not even like an acknowledgement, just like, okay. But you send a download link, which is very sneaky because you can tell when someone starts the download, right? So I just sent you a streaming link. Right?
I wasn't even aware that's how that.
Yeah. I can't, like, the thing I sent out, it's like, okay, I don't know if anyone's going to see it or not, but.
It's that weird thing of, and I know this sounds maybe egotistical or whatever, but it's that weird thing of like, you give someone who's not a musician, let's say like a family member or like a friend, you give them a CD, you give them a link, you give them a piece of audio or whatever, and they listen to it. And I wonder if like they think like, well, what am I going to tell that professional musician about this? Which like, and all I want is like, I loved it, or it's great, or thank you, or
it's
that one line was funny.
I was curious about the tone on
track 4. It's like, were you using an Oberheim XF5, or is it? And now when you went to the 5 of the 5, and that last the chord changes, you're like, I don't want like just did you like it? But it's that weird, and I think that's what prevents a lot of people from necessarily chiming in. It's like, and I try to picture like, okay, if Sting sent me an album. Like, would I be like, hey, it's great? Like, would I even think to, like, why would I even think
I definitely, I know. And
not to compare myself to Sting, but it's like,
that's a fair, I mean, you're both musicians. Yeah, I think it's, it's not without merit. But I think also the more, I mean, look, when I sent you my album, there's a bit of nervous because it's like, oh, here's a friend and a musician I respect.
Well, right.
It's like the more you respect the person you're sending the thing to or getting it from, it's like, oh shit, is this gonna what am I gonna say here?
But then it was like, we talked about it on, I think it was on an SGU episode. I talked about how you straddled that line of like homage, parody, real, like, and you thread that needle with that album. It was so good.
Oh, thanks.
And like how important and how difficult that is to land that kind of tone of like, I'm making fun of it, but also there's a crazy respect to it too. That sort of that Weird Al line that he always straddles of like, I'm making fun of this stuff, but I love it.
Yeah,
it's so delicate.
Well, thank you. I mean, that's exactly as we've talked about. This is like exactly what I'm going for.
Right.
And it's amazing to hear that it's working because I
just
never know. Like anything, it's like, is this working? What level is it working on? Is it working as intended or in some other way?
Yeah.
With the Trey stuff, it's like it should be working at a level where people can just not get it and still like it, or they can fully get it and still like it, but perhaps for a different reason.
Right. It's like references in comedy, like the really good comedic bits work whether you get the reference or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was always the amazing thing about like things like Monty Python and stuff like that. Like where I didn't know who Reginald Maudlin was.
I was just about to say Reginald Maudlin. Who the fuck is Reginald Maudlin?
Who is that? I'm 12, I'm 14, whatever I am. I have no idea who that person is.
That's right.
But Reginald Maudlin's shorts or whatever, Reginald Maudlin's pants or whatever the line. And that's just funny because it sounds funny and it was weird and it like became humorous. And then you realize he was a he was an MP or whatever the heck he was.
I looked it up at some point, like
some kind of member of government, I guess, or whatever. You know?
Yeah.
But it was like,
but an old white guy. That was the image we had. Old white guy. That's
right.
Who it was.
And like, or Wicker's World was another sketch that they did. It was all the travelogue. It's this guy. I don't know what his real name was, but it was like a guy that did these travel programs where in that sketch, it's Wicker's World, and the guy visits an island full of himself.
Oh,
so there's 10
yes.
I'm on an island with all full of David Wickers, and they keep walking through the shot, and I have no idea who that guy is, but it's freaking hilarious because it's just funny.
With the philosophers talking about football.
Oh my God! Exactly.
I still don't know anything about. I know maybe I'm recognized more teams, but had I ever heard of the Wolverhampton Wanderers before that sketch? No, I'm still not 100% sure they're real.
Yeah, and it didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
You know, but it just doesn't matter because it's like the reference is secondary. So like with your tunes, with your music, it's that same idea of like it can be a very straightforward, like these tunes are great and they're funky and they're fun and rhythmically interesting, harmonically interesting. The soloing is great. Timbre is like spot on. But then if you were raised through that time where we were listening to CD 101.9 and it's like, oh my God, this is great. This is just delicious. So.
See, that was a regular station my dad had a retail store in Pompton Lakes, and they would always play what was the greatest hits of the 60s, 70s, and today. But then they kept adding decades, the 60s, 70s, 80s, and today. The 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and today. Because I remember they had to do 2 shifts. I remember when they added 80s and when they added 90s.
Funny. Yeah.
But they, it was it 101.1? I think that was the light FM
something like that
station. Yeah.
But
CD 101.9.
Yeah. It was instrumental music. Mm-hmm. I was like, instrumental. There's no pop lyrics and vocals happening, and it's not Madonna, and it's not, whatever that was happening on the rest of the radio channels. And to me, it was like, this is amazing. And it was like names you kind of knew.
Yeah,
like
kind
George
of knew.
Benson.
That's right.
I remember him. He had that thing, Kenny G obviously was the massive one that kind of broke. And I rember was it Songbird? That's his big one, right?
Songbird and Silhouette are the two big ones. Yeah.
I remember Songbird at the time being like,
is Songbird the da 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 da?
That's Songbird,
yeah.
Yeah. And hearing that and being like, oh, cool, instrumental jazz, and then kind of being like, this is nowhere near as cool as Chick Corea.
Right.
Like this is because I was listening to the Electric Band as well at the time. I was like, this is not like it's. Yeah, I'm glad it's instrumental music, but it's not nearly as cool as like Chick Corea or
we also
Steve
had
Gadd and stuff like that.
WBGO, right? GBO or BGO, I think.
Yeah, 88.3.
88.3, that's right. The actual jazz station.
The real actual jazz station, which had jazz like all day, all night, which was amazing.
Yeah.
I was recently up in Montclair, and I just went to 88.3 just like, and it was some kind of like stock exchange. It's like nothing. There was nothing there. I'm like, right. Wow.
It's
just gone. Yeah. CD 101.9 was also some kind of like a pop, not even a pop thing. It was a weird, like a hip hop.
I'm trying to remember what it is now.
Yeah, what it is now.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just like instinctively just kind of going through the dial to see what remained. K-Rock was still there, but that was also
FMU,
still
around. Right.
Yeah, FMU is that's amazing. So we're really showing our age.
Crazy. You know what? Here, we're already in like micro-specific regional references. So let's introduce the show.
Too bad.
Everybody, this is Late Night with Brian Wecht. My name is Brian Wecht. Leighton is ill today. Last minute, she wasn't feeling well, so we don't have her, but we do have a wonderful guest. Who are you?
Hi, I'm George Hrab.
Yeah.
Good to see everybody again. I think this is the third time, yes?
Third,
right?
I think third, yes.
It's my third time here, which I just so enjoy chatting.
It's the best. No,
it's guys, but you guy. So, yeah. It's really fun.
No, thank you for coming back on.
Oh, of course. I'm here because Brian and I have competing Christmas albums.
Yeah, who will dominate the charts?
That's
the question everybody's
asking. Who will get the market
asking.
share? Who will get the market share? As if there's even a question. But no,
it's Mariah Carey, of course.
Of course.
The Queen of Christmas. But anyway, so I sent you my album because I'd heard you on the SGU last week. You just popped on for a minute to talk about Nauticon or something, which we should also talk about. And you mentioned the holidays, and I was like, oh, I should send George my album. And I sent you the upcoming Trey holiday album, and you were like, well, guess what? I also have a Christmas album. Which
you sent me the cover. Did you send me the actual album too?
I think I texted you a link.
I thought it was just the album.
I may
just
have
because
been
the album
wrong.
was the cover was the beautiful. Again, you don't have to get the reference to love the cover, but if you know the Mel Torme album, which I know and I adore that album.
We have talked about it.
Oh my God,
it's the best. It is my
Moonglow,
favorite Christmas album.
Come on, the best non-Christmas song of all time on a Christmas album.
That whole album is great. Yeah, I think let me know if it didn't come through. I can text it to you.
Oh, I will. Yeah, I will double check because I thought. Anyway, I will give it a listen for sure. But yeah, and I happen to say, well, I got one coming out too, so we can. But they're very different. I think they're very different.
They're very different because mine is 5 covers and 1 original, and yours is 12?
11 originals.
11 originals. Yeah. Yeah,
11 originals,
but
11 new originals.
Actually, so that was awesome. As you know, it's exciting to see an original Christmas album, which you don't see too many of these days.
Not too many, yeah.
But the thing that I liked about it that I want to talk about specifically is a lot of these you're making clear references to other Christmas songs.
Yes.
In many. I didn't do the math, but a lot of these are like, oh, well, that's.
Yes.
I have to
some are more overt
titles.
than others, but yeah, pretty much they all sort of the germ of each start of one was some kind of like, oh, I'm going to do this kind of song.
Right. So I noticed I wrote this down here because I didn't want to forget all the names. All I Want for Christmas is clearly the Simply Having a Wonderful
100%
Christmas Time.
Paul McCartney.
Right?
Yeah.
Immediately, yeah. And
from the timbre of the synth to everything.
Did you look up which synth? This is the question. Did you look up which synth he used and
we did the whole thing.
Is that a soft one or the actual one?
It's a modulator, so it's a fake one. But my Slough, the guy that engineers everything and does my production and mastering, he is just Captain Ears, and he said, "Yeah, I'll find it. I'll find it." So so we got that. There's a song called David Bowie Christmas.
Yes.
So we got the flanged.
I heard it.
Scary Monsters piano from Ashes to Ashes.
Yep.
Again, it's sort of this reference that when you get it, but you don't have to get it. But the most overt one is All I Want for Christmas is Free Parking, which has the Mariah Carey reference in the title, but then the album the song is a pretty much straightforward homage, although it's kind of fun because it's a little more complex than Paul's tune, but it's hidden, like it's in 5, which you don't even quite realize it's in 5, which is sort of fun. And it's got a nice key change that happens too. It's like a secret modulation that happens that you don't even notice until you notice it, and you're like, that kind of stuff that I just always love to incorporate into whatever I'm working on. But,
well, it stands out as, it's just the kind of thing. I was thinking about this today because I was listening to a Burt Bacharach playlist, and it's so hard. And I try to do this with some of the Trey stuff too, is to make it interesting, but not in a way that feels like capital I interesting, right?
Well, yeah,
not forced, which is the trick of writing a song.
What are they? The art is to hide the art.
Yeah, that's right.
Someone said that. Whoever, I forget who said that. Like Flaubert or someone said that. And that's, I heard that via Bill Bruford, the drummer from Yes and King Crimson. That was in his drumming book. He always, at every chapter had a quote, and he said the art is to hide the art. And it's like, if it sounds difficult or if it sounds like it's in 2116, okay.
Yeah.
If it doesn't sound like it's in 2116 and it's in 2116, that to me is just so much more interesting.
Yes.
And cooler. Like it's easy to make stuff sound hard. I think it's hard to make stuff sound easy when it's not.
100%. I think about do you know Wozzeck by Berg?
Oh, yeah. Oh my God.
The best, which is an atonal opera.
Yes.
Right. But does not sound like an atonal opera.
No. Yeah.
It sounds lush and beautiful and romantic and but if you try to find, and there's occasional tonal centers, but not really. Right. Like they just kind of pass. But I think that's such a great example. Lulu, too, where you're like, this is cereal? This is no way this is cereal.
Yeah,
no,
Veyburn has this cereal stuff that like you can sing along to. And you go like,
That's right.
is this really 12-tone? Like,
Yeah,
really?
exactly.
Like,
and you just can't believe that these guys wrote this thing. What's the story of, I think it's Leonard Bernstein going to Lulu or something and being like, it's cereal. Yeah, I can't believe it's cereal. He's turning like to Bernard Herrmann or someone. I don't know who. Yeah, you know, and they're like, what the fuck? How does he do it?
How is that possible? Yeah. I remember being assigned, 12, row assignments and stuff, and always trying to make it sound as pretty as I could make it sound. So I was like, anyone can make it sound like shit. You have to like try to make this melody interesting. And I remember one professor once was like, that's a very nice melody. I'm like, oh my God, thank you. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass, but oh my God.
Because it can be, right? It can be. But then to expand that into, an opera, Jesus Christ, it's like, how the fuck do you do that?
Yeah.
But anyway, the thing about Berg has always been, to me, that it's it's a cliche practically to say about him now, but he sounds like a romantic. He sounds like Mahler or something.
Yeah, right.
And the guy is just
but within these. Well, there's always that weird thing of like, I mean, I don't know if you find this true, but I always find when there's constraints, it always makes you so much more creative, and whether it's time constraints or money constraints or
everything constraints,
100%. Right? Like you look at the album covers for the jazz album covers in the 50s, not Motown, but Blue Note, the Blue Note album covers, which they had, it was always black and white images and one color, maybe two. And they're beautiful.
They're these beautiful pictures.
Beautiful, iconic, gorgeous album covers, because those are the constraints. I don't know if they were self-imposed or because that was what they could afford or what the printers did at the time. But it's always like, okay, you know what? Let's impose some constraints upon what we're doing. And then, we're not going to, like with an album, I don't want to use 87 tracks.
Right.
Like, let's try to stay around 16 if we can, or like maybe 24. Like if we can't do it in 24, we're not doing it right, Right. Or just a snare drum, hi-hat, and a kick drum. And like, let's see what you got.
Yeah.
You know what? Like, let's just see what you come up with.
This was
sort of fun.
I remember the thing I was going to say before, but I'll circle back to that in a second. The thing that, I mean, my entire career with Ninja Sex Party has been constraints because we started writing these songs. I don't know jack shit about music production, like literally nothing. Don't know how to record anything. I know music theory. I know how to play.
Right.
In terms of recording an album, that was just never, I didn't learn it in school. I'd never had to do it. So we wrote songs based on what can we successfully pull off live with two people and what can we record. And so we did synth pop because I was like, well, I have soft synths and I can't play guitar. So I can't do guitar driven stuff. We're kind of a synth pop band because that was the entirety of what my ability was, and I could make sound good. Because, I was trying to I don't know how to do. I could hire a guitarist when needed, but also when we're starting out, I don't have any money. Like, it's not, I don't have a budget to hire people to play. Maybe I can con a friend into doing it, but it's our first album, listening to it now, it's real janky in a way that I hope is charming, but definitely was the limit of our production capacity. Yeah. We didn't even have a fucking producer. Like, we just went into a studio and started recording stuff. We didn't get a certain charm to that. 4 albums in,
Yeah, right. It's funny. There's a certain charm to that. That's why sometimes people really love those first records of any band, of any group, any person. Sometimes if you can get beyond technical problems, because sometimes you get early stuff that are stuff on a cassette or something that's really just distorted or bad sounding. But even those sometimes have a heart that's there and earnestness. Like my first album is I think I recorded it in 3 days or something. It was, I mixed it in a day. Yeah. It was 45 minutes of music. And I listen to it now and it's just, you hear the excitement of a guy who's so excited to be in a studio with microphones,
an actual. You're 20 what?
I'm 23, 22 maybe, something like that, and it's just, I'm going to play my version of these really fast, Bad Police songs as best as Bad Zappa, Bad Police, as best as I can. The best comment was the person who eventually would become a very, very close dear friend, Slough, the engineer at the time, was his studio. Jokingly, the thing was like, "Hey, do you like the Police?" Because it was just Stuart Copeland upon Stuart Copeland, and it's just Bad Police, But it was there's a like a joy in there and an earnestness in it, and it like, okay, I can do drums, one guitar, and bass. What can I do with that and make it interesting? And it's like sometimes you want to hang on to that, and 100%. To be like, okay, how can we limit ourselves so that what we write works in any kind of forum?
Right. Yes.
That's the beauty of if you have a tune that works with one keyboard and two voices, it's going to work brilliant with 16 tracks or 24 tracks or 48. Like, it'll enhance it. But if it doesn't work, as just guitar and a vocal line, you'll make it more interesting, maybe with some cool reverb or some cool effects or whatever. But that's why like any Beatles song works on just acoustic guitar,
because the songwriting is just like,
because the songwriting is great. Any Police tune is, you can't beat it. It's great songwriting.
I mean, speaking of Weird Al, those early Al albums where he's playing accordion in a bathroom and
with a suitcase, literally.
Exactly. And then I forget how long ago it was, but 5 or whatever years ago, he's touring with a full orchestra. And doing some of the same songs, and they're just they're parodies, some of them, but I don't need to tell you that the Al originals are like the greatest things ever.
Completely.
And just
very underrated. He should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The fact that he's sort of not and hasn't even been floated.
It's crazy.
It's really shameful, because it's, no one, very, very few people have had a 40-year career.
And are still popular and beloved. And is not a creep. He's not some weird old white guy creep. He's like a super nice guy who treats people respectfully. There's he's
not a bad story. Not a single bad story about
Everyone
that guy.
loves him. Everyone loves him.
I mean,
and
he should be like in the foyer of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I know.
A flag, yeah.
Yep. And he seems humble, and he works hard, and he is supportive of younger people. Like it's he's the
stays
best.
Relevant too, like, and isn't creepy in doing it. It's not like, when you get some artist that tries to sort of latch onto whatever the hip thing may be, and it's just kind of painful. You're like, okay.
Which is crazy for him, because, parody is so of the moment, kind of innately. And certainly the stuff he started out parodying is like top 40, if not top 10 hits, number one hits of the day. Yeah. Then for some reason decides to go with MacArthur Park in the 90s, but sure, great.
Well, I think he would just grab these classic, like the
Saga Begins, right?
Saga Begins, American Pie. I think it's just, that's the way his brain works, of like, oh, this is a perfect format for it, and people will know the song, and so it's, and yet he can do, all the, word crimes and the stuff that was on the radio. I mean, his last album was like a number one album.
I think it was his first number one album.
And 38 years into your career.
I know.
It's astonishing.
And he's still touring. I think he's 65 now. And it's like, he's, I just have nothing but respect for that guy.
Yeah. Like same band too, like the same 4 guys.
Yep.
Are the core of his band, which is like they've been there since the beginning.
And that's right.
John Bermuda Schwartz.
Yep. They added Ruben. I don't know, some point in the 80s, I think, Ruben Valtierra came in as the keys player, right? So he's not in that first, Steve J,
Another One Rides the
Jim
Bus
West,
kind of thing,
kind of era. But then Ruben comes in. I obviously I am a super fan, and I forget, it was a long time ago. This is probably 20 years ago. I went to see, my 4th Weird Al concert, and I have his fake autobiography, The Authorized Al, from 1986 or whatever it is. I've been carrying this around for 40 plus years, and brought it to the band to sign, waiting around after the venue. And Ruben is there, and he's not in this book because he was not in the band at this point, and he flips to, I was like, hey, can you sign this? And he flips to the cover. They have a big cover of the self-titled album, where he's on the bed, and it's kind of this like Mad Magazine looking thing. Yes. And this is a very specific detail. I would not remember it if he hadn't done exactly what I'm about to describe. But under the bed, there's like a dark thing and a pair of eyes looking out. And so he draws a little arrow to those eyes. He says, "That's me." And he signed Ruben Valterra.
Love it.
Right there.
Love it.
But yeah, those guys are the best.
Does he know NSP? He must know of you guys, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's a friend, but we've met and exchange very occasional emails.
Okay, good.
So he knows NSP, he knows me, he knows Dan.
Oh, that's great.
And has been just very kind. And
nice.
The one time we hung out with him for an extended period of time, he just was like, "You guys are great." He's a nice, normal guy.
So nice to hear. Yeah. Nice. I haven't seen the movie yet.
It's fun. It's so fun.
Just because whatever services I have, it just hasn't lined up yet. I gotta rent it and watch it because it's just fun.
It's really worth it. It also has like small
everyone's
roles for everybody's in it.
Everybody.
There's this famous pool scene in it where they get
Zappa
people
and like Pee Wee Herman and
but it's famous current comedians playing these figures.
Right. So yeah, I do want to see it.
I thought the movie. Well, I mean, another thing, it's like you could have kind of like phoned that in, I guess. Instead, it's a real fun, good movie. It's new. It's it's not some existing thing. He just really went for it, and it's great.
Yeah. It's cool.
So the thing I was going to say before coming back to Berg is especially with these modern any like atonal or whatever composer, Boulez, Ferniho, whatever.
Yeah.
Do they hear it in their heads when they write these things? What do you think? Because like you read this stuff and it's like, okay, this is in 1716, and it's a 11
3 keys at once
on the thing, and part of me is like, there's no fucking way these guys are that sophisticated. But also, there are super tasters. We all know the kind of person that can just hear something and just boom, get it.
Yeah.
Maybe they are.
I don't know. I think there are bursts of it, if anything. I would be hard pressed to think that even on a savant level, you'd be able to discern some of the stuff that's happening in there.
That's right.
Just from a pure like frequency perspective.
I know. Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like just like from what's capable of a human head to be able to physically process in terms of what's coming in through both visually and auditorially.
Well, yeah, and
as a Zappa freak, I was always like, okay, like how much of it was him drawing the stuff and just liked the way. I mean, he even said that as much, that like I liked the way the notes looked.
Sure, which is great.
Which is great, and I wanted to hear it because I wanted to hear what it sounded like. So,
well, and part of his whole technique was literally just the xenochrony thing, right? Where you paste the thing in and just kind of hope for cool
this
overlaps.
Goes with this, and then whatever the overlaps are, or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. I think they're probably hearing a lot more than we mere mortals do. But yeah, once you get into those incredibly tight, polymetric kind of clusters and stuff, to hear some cluster chord and be able to go, the B flat, you're playing the B, out of the 19 notes that are in that chord.
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And it doesn't make the music less great. It's not a value judgment.
Right. There is a purpose to it. Yeah, there is a purpose to it. And, what's nice is that music allows you to use those effects.
That's right.
In other kinds of music. So when you're doing a horror movie score, you can have like, isn't that funny how like the most atonal, horrible stuff, like no one will listen to,
like the Xenakis and Ligeti and all these guys.
Right. But you put it in the context of a scene and it's
amazing.
It's amazing. You can't picture the Psycho shower without the music. You can't picture the uncovering of the monolith in 2001 without the, Ligeti or whatever was going on there. It's like, so it's that weird thing of, because now we have an image, we can accept the weird atonality that's being presented.
Yeah. I think that was such an innovation of Kubrick's for 2001 to hear this like exist. I mean, those were not written for the movie. He was taking these existing pieces, these very atmospheric Ligeti, et cetera, pieces, and just being like, okay, this would be the perfect like vibe for this. Right.
To go from the Blue Danube to that. The majesty of the space station and its beauty and this like, perfect, this waltz, right? This like this timeless waltz to like the creepy space people are doing their thing. Yeah. It's brilliant.
I hadn't thought about it until right now, but that is probably most people hadn't heard stuff like that in the theater in 1968, right? You're exposing this very current,
like
modern classical music to a mass audience in this hugely popular and influential film.
Yeah.
Probably those sounds were pretty new.
There were experimental movies, I'm sure, but not
that achieved that level of
nationwide release. Although I don't even know how well 2001 did when it first came out.
I don't.
Was it a hit? I don't think it was a hit, but I know subsequently it became very.
Was any?
It was obviously very popular.
Kubrick didn't have that many hits. Right? I mean,
what's considered a hit? Shining was a hit.
Full Metal Jacket was probably
Full Metal Jacket. I think was a top 5, top 10 kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's not like people were like, dude, you got to see Barry Lyndon. Let's get the guys together.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think he had a lot of hits. I don't think Eyes Wide Shut was a hit. I thought maybe it was, but it was so weird.
I mean, there was an initial kind of people, the last film, so people wanted to see it, but I don't remember, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my one disappointment with his whole thing. I was like, I've had conversations with Steve Novella about Eyes Wide Shut.
He loves it. He thinks it's great.
I don't know if he loves it. And I think he appreciates it and respects it because he says like, oh, it's not a good narrative. Like,
okay. So I remember talking about it and him saying like, oh, I really like things about certain things.
Yeah, no, he was like, Kubrick's thing is the marriage of entertaining with message and visionary and kind of a deeper aesthetic and deeper message to what's happening than what's on the surface. Mm-hmm. And usually those are two joined really, really perfectly. And Steve himself will admit that in Eyes Wide Shut, they don't meld. But there's, in terms of the imagery that's there, the message, the talking about, about adultery, about relationships, all that stuff. Yeah, it's fascinating. Is it like as cool as 2001?
I'm not going to be watching it again. The thing that drove me nuts about it is the pacing.
That's right. It didn't
how
need
it's like, oh my God, just deliver the fucking clearly a choice.
Yeah.
Maddening. But
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to talk more about your album and Christmas music in general, because I love Christmas music. You love Christmas music.
Love it.
Leighton, who's not here, hates it.
Yes.
So I'm not saying this is fortuitous that she's not
coincidence.
Here. But I want to, hit me with your favorites. Not yours, like the stuff that you loved growing up or whatever.
Now, here's the thing is, as a Ukrainian person being raised in a Ukrainian household, our holidays were full of Yuki music. Mm-hmm. So there's all the Ukrainian carols that was my first real Christmas thing, which is like there's a whole series of church-related.
And you have one that really broke out and stood apart.
Well, our big hit,
right?
Our big hit. Carol of the Bells, which I don't even think I realized for a long time that was like this universal hit, as it were. But this I mean, obviously all the Rankin Bass stuff as a kid, the Frosty, not Frosty the Snowman, but Rudolph, Baby New Year, all that stuff, the songs incorporated into that. Plus, the Peanuts, Christmas stuff. I mean, the Peanuts Christmas album, the Guaraldi.
It's the best.
Oh my God.
Untouchable. I think.
Untouchable, the perfect word.
The special, personally, is kind of like, we tried to watch it with Audrey a couple years ago.
I watched the 50th anniversary, and I was like, it's not good.
The pacing is insane. The story is dumb. The weird cuts, it's kind of irritating.
Yes.
Like, it just does not hold up in 2024.
But put the album on.
Album is perfect.
It could be June in the Sahara, and you put that record on, and you are, in the Northeast with pine trees and ice skating somewhere.
Yep.
And what he's doing in terms of sort of this modal jazz thing, like this kind of West Coast-ish 50s sort of kind of extension.
Yeah.
Oh my God. His soloing, the touch on his playing is so gorgeous.
Yeah. It's just so light. You've got these
effortless,
very extended harmonies throughout everything.
Right.
It's built around 11th and 13th chords, and it just never feels anything but easy.
Yeah.
And it's, even Christmas Time is Here, which is all about, major sevenths and like this these
parallel motion, these parallel chords that like that don't sound blocky at all.
No.
But they totally are these block parallel movement. And you go like, how does that sound so pretty and just soft?
Yeah.
And you're just in this pillow of the music. And it's just, and even as a not understanding what's going on theoretically, or not understanding what's even going on timbrally, it was so comforting and so seasonally representational that like nothing else comes close.
No, I totally agree.
Nothing else comes
on
close.
Constant rotation in our house and has been forever. I love it. It's it's very like Brubeck adjacent, but doesn't have the force that Brubeck's playing these like 10-note chords practically. You feel like every finger in his hand going crazy.
He's got that rhythmic counterpart thing, which is great, which is fun to play and fun to play along against too, but not under the tree.
But Giraldi uses that same kind of harmonic language, but dials it back like 50%.
Right.
And not in terms of the harmonics, but in terms of the touch.
And right. The restraint. The restraint that's there, because he's a motherfucker. He's got
crazy. Yeah.
He's a total ninja, but he's just even that like the skating song.
Yeah.
Like, ever try playing that? It's like, and then he does it in parallel. And you're like, what? How? But it sounds like it's just,
and for a fucking Charlie Brown thing too,
right? On top of it all, right? It's not even like this is some commission for some, Nobel Peace Prize laureate, concert. It's like, oh, here's this really piece of shit cartoon that's never been done before too. Like, that's the other thing. There was never a cartoon special, primetime cartoon special before. I think that was one of the first times that happened. And like, and how much, like, I don't know how long it took him to write those and record them. Like, it was probably
whose
like
idea
a week.
was it to get him? I don't think it was Charles Schultz. I mean, I don't even know if Charles Schultz wrote the special. I assume probably as a writing credit, but whoever was listening to Giraldi and thought, jazz, it's the 60s, jazz is going to be like the thing. Genius.
Or it was like they're in the CBS cafeteria and someone says, I just saw this guy, I was at a concert on Tuesday. Because it's always that way of like, if that random person didn't want to get a burrito that day, they wouldn't know we wouldn't know who Vince Guaraldi is,
100%.
So I would bet it's probably something like, the secretaries went and they saw this thing and they said this guy was really great. Oh, all right, give him a call. I don't know, whatever. Give the guy a call. Let's see what he's getting. Give him a week and $10,000. See what he comes up.
I was gonna say, it probably came down to he was the lowest bidder. He's like, okay, well, he's a struggling jazz musician. I could be wrong, but I don't think he was a well-known guy at the time. I certainly couldn't tell you anything about his career pre-Charlie Brown.
Right.
But it's always interesting to me when these, it's very tied into the Charlie Brown thing. But when you get these weird origins, especially from movies or whatever of these things, I was thinking about this today because, as I said, I was listening to this Burt Bacharach playlist, and That's What Friends Are For came on. Do you know the original version of this?
No.
It's a Rod Stewart song from the movie Night Shift.
Stop it, really?
Yeah,
oh my
and
gosh.
It's so synthy. There's no harmonica. That line is played on a synth. And it's not, it's the same song. There's a few different interpolating chords. Sure. But it just,
isn't that funny?
The one we know with, Stevie and Elton John and Gladys Knight and Dion, it's incredible. Also, weird singing voice for Elton John on that. He's pretty aggressive compared to his normal normal thing, right?
We did that once for some wedding or something. We played it, and I remember figuring out the chart for that. It was like, again, back. What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like, why does this work? This shouldn't work this well. Like, what? And then like trying to sing it and trying to figure out the parts and all that. Yeah, it's so cool. So cool.
And that also threads that needle of, you're like, it's cheesy. There's no other word to describe it. It is pure cheese, and it's great. Yeah. And there was a period.
There's like, it's artisanal.
Yeah.
There is skill behind it. Like, there is craftsmanship and work. There's one thing, like a cheesy thing that's two chords that anyone could do as a certain kind of cheesiness. a cheesiness that has this crazy pedagogy behind it. Is it's a very different kind of thing. It's still cheesy, but it's just like I don't know. It's like a different flavor. It's like a really, really interesting Roquefort or something.
Totally.
As opposed to Kraft.
Yeah, and it's
so
also
cool.
interesting to me when you get these guys like Bacharach, like Elton John, who are like, well, I guess my lyrics aren't the best, and then they meet someone else, Hal David or Bernie Taupin, who are just like, oh shit,
yeah,
okay, because I don't know how you are. When I'm listening to music, I hear lyrics last, like dead last, typically.
Oh, really?
When I'm listening to a pop song, I'm always like the lyrics are the last thing that I actually process. And they're kind of irrelevant to my first enjoyment of the song. It's like, am I in the melody? Am I in the chords? Blah, blah, blah. And then I think this is part of why, for example, Bob Dylan does zero for me, because everyone's like, oh, he's a poet, you gotta listen to it. Okay, sure. But
I hear you. I think for me it's like groove, because obviously as a percussion guy, that's sort of like, okay, are there surprises? Like that's always sort of a second for me, like can I guess where it's going? And if I can guess where it's going, it's like
right. And
then lyrics are actually, I dive in pretty quick with lyrics, because I'm I try to be a lyric guy, and if there's any bit of cleverness, like I'm yours, I'm your date. Like just pull me in with one little clever thing and I'm good to go. Because it's very rare that you sort of go, oh, that's great. Like what a line.
But this is how your songs are. Like they're always, the lyrics are always,
oh my God.
No, they are. They definitely are. The lyrics are always clever, but not in a pretentious or, too, smarter than thou kind of way.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely they are. Like it's, I think like, probably like you, like the moment someone seems like they're trying to show off and that shit, you're like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
Your stuff never comes across that way to me.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you for saying that.
It's like the perfect, like down the middle where it's like, it's very interesting, but not forced. Like we were talking about.
It's funny with this, this record started as like, let me just do this Christmas thing. I got these tunes. And let me just do this, not as a quickie or something, or to be like dismissive, but like I'm not as concerned about having this be an artistic statement, like my last record, like Terpsichore. Like I really wanted that to be interesting and sort of not groundbreaking, but just like really craft it and really work on the tunes and make the grooves as good as they could be and get the sound. And like this was like, these songs are strong, like what we talked about before. So whatever environment they're presented in, it's going to work. If it's just a straightforward arrangement, I don't need to find the greatest acoustic guitar sound in the world. Like an acoustic guitar sound will work, but slowly though, and this is to sort of Slough's credit as well, like he sort of said like this couldn't help but become a George Hrab record. Like you can't help it. So we start producing and like we start adding stuff, and then like, oh well, what if we there's this virtual pedal steel that's on a couple of the tracks that it's astonishing. Because there's a country song. Santa's in the Chimney, which the idea is that this guy comes downstairs Christmas Day and he realizes that Santa has died inside his chimney.
Gremlin
so
style,
it's this it's sort of this country ballad mid-tempo thing. But we put, and it didn't need it, but as soon as you put pedal steel on it, it like blossoms into this legit country style tune. There's a song,
it sounds great. Like the production on that is really dialed in.
It's like and so it just we kept working on it. The song we mentioned, the Paul McCartney kind of homage, which again would work fine with any kind of synth sound, but to really get that synth sound. And then
it's like 1 second and you're like, all right,
there it is.
Yeah.
But then there's like car horn sounds that we did that are actually trombones that we're using, to do this kind of layered car horn orchestrational tricks. There's a sampled car horn, but there's also trombones that are simulating what, again, like Copeland would do if you wanted to do a car horn. That kind of stuff, which again, I never went in saying like, oh, let's use all the orchestrational tricks I know, to enhance these tunes. There's a song called The Christmas Pants, which I don't know if you know.
Christmas
the Christmas shoes.
Yes, believe me, that was not lost on me.
Okay, right.
We discussed that on this show a couple of years ago. No, not you and me.
Oh,
but,
all right.
Leighton and I and our friend Jarek,
the
former producer
worst,
here.
hands down,
manipulative
worst Christmas song.
dreck Just unimaginably bad.
Unimaginably horrible, awful, like sort of pseudo-religious based too.
Right. Yes.
And horrible video.
Everything
an entire Hallmark movie was made about the song, which is its own majestic pile of garbage.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I have to do my response to it. So I wrote the Christmas pants. So in the Christmas shoes, for those of you that don't know, and Patton Oswalt has the best take on this.
Yes,
I don't know if you've
that's
heard.
A very good bit. Yeah.
It's like a 7-minute or 10-minute bit that he does. Yeah. In essence, a guy's in line at the store. He sees a little kid buying shoes. The kid can't buy the shoes, doesn't have enough money. Turns out he's buying these shoes for his mom who's dying from cancer. Mm-hmm. And she's going to be with Jesus. So the guy ends up like throwing some bucks in to buy the shoes. Merry Christmas, right? Like what the hell?
Song. Yeah, who doesn't want to hear about this? Yeah.
Okay, what can I do? And I thought, okay. Guy's in line at the store. He sees a kid buying pants. Turns out the kid's father is like, keeps exposing himself in public. He has to get pants or else he's going to jail. He can't afford the pants. Mm-hmm. So the guy in line buys the Christmas pants, Yeah. And what I love about that is melodically and harmonically, it has nothing to do with the original song.
No, it doesn't sound like it
feels
at all.
different. It's like, because I had only heard that once or twice. I didn't even go back to reference it because I wanted it to be totally different. But it doesn't matter because it's just so fun. So that also has some pedal steel on it.
But also was very obviously a reference to there was no doubt. Yeah.
It's just screaming it, So, but it's one of these weird things of like you sacrifice a beautiful melody for like this really silly song, mm-hmm. and you kind of go like, oh, I love this melody because this is major chord, major 7, major 6. And it's got this lovely melody, and then it goes to the 4 and then the minor 4, and it's like mm-hmm. it's really pretty, but it's just singing about this guy, his balls are out, and it's like it's so fun,
This is most of my life, right? Is trying to write good music with lyrics that are, stupid or
ridiculous or funny or silly,
sex jokes or whatever. Yeah.
100%. But I think the juxtaposition of it is what makes it so successful. And
that's right. Yeah.
That was the thing. Like, if you look up like Christmas funny songs,
Bob Rivers. Bob Rivers' Twisted Christmas.
Right. It's it's just
come all ye grateful deadheads.
Right.
Like, it's like
harmonically it's very boring. Melodically it's very boring. The jokes are just either super obvious or like funny. Really just not funny or not even dad jokes,
Grandma got run over by a reindeer is the classic example. It's like, when I was 10,
one joke.
I thought it was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
As an
when
adult,
you're 9, it's
like,
brilliant.
Oh my
but it's
God.
like one joke that gets hammered over and over and over. So I thought, okay, if I can write some funny Christmas tunes on some level. And so we got the Christmas pants, we've got the Santa dying in the thing, now but there's the twist because you're like, I'll come up with, okay, Santa dies in the chimney. Okay. And then what?
Right.
So like, what do we do? Well, it turns out the guy thinks it's a good thing. It's actually going to prevent, he's going to leave it there. And it's actually may not be that bad because we never use that fireplace. So let's just leave him there till spring and we'll just figure it out then. That's a cool, fun sort of twist. Or like with the free parking thing, there's an earnestness that happens in that song which totally grabbed me by surprise. So it's like, okay, Mariah Carey, obviously, All I Want for Christmas Is You. All right, sure. All I Want for Christmas is free parking. That's a funny line. It's a funny title. You're going to grab someone's attention. So it's I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. All I want is free parking. I get to the last verse after the bridge, and I remember it sort of hit me that like, why does this guy want free parking? And the reason he wants free parking is because he wants people to come visit. Mm-hmm. So like the protagonist of the song, I remember like I burst into tears. I literally like burst into tears because I was so like, I suddenly felt for this guy because he's like, don't bring me a gift, just visit my place. And if you need to park, I hope that there's a space.
Yeah.
Like he's not asking for free parking for himself. He wants someone to come visit him at Christmas. And it's like, and that's like the best feeling when you land in this kind of twist,
Yeah. Especially when you didn't expect when you started writing.
When I didn't expect it at all didn't expect it. There's a Christmas Time Around the World also where it's
all the different
it goes
traditions.
through all the different traditions. So I'm like on Wikipedia looking up
Donald Duck
what
in
is
there, which is great. Yeah.
Sweden, like people, they go watch Donald Duck on Christmas Day.
I know.
It's crazy, and that also at the end, it kind of takes this turn of like, oh, everybody's really different, but maybe there's more what we have in common than, despite how we each might pray.
Yeah.
We have like the bridge happens, which is everyone. And I just, as I was writing it, I literally just sang this like straight out. And I, again, got chills and freaked out, but it was everyone makes dishes that are full of yummy food. Everybody wishes for a little bit more good. Everybody misses who'd be here. Yeah. Everybody misses who'd be here if they could, and like that took this thing of like, everyone's got great food. Everyone wants the world to be a better place. And everybody misses those who aren't here. That to me, that's the Bruce Press bridge.
Yeah.
I think of Bruce whenever I sing that or whenever I write that. Bruce is a friend of ours who passed away. So that song takes this lovely twist and turn as well. And so just to this idea of hopefully people will enjoy it, and it's not Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
No, I really loved it, dude. It was like it's what we're saying. It's the perfect tone. It's funny without being too clever. The songwriting's great. The recording's great. Yeah, I mean, it's really well recorded too. That's the other thing. It's like, well, that's
Slaugh's credit, man. He's just a master, and his diligence.
It's so clean throughout. Right, like it's just the production is very crystal.
I'm glad.
So
yeah. And so like,
yeah.
and the other thing about this record, like the track order, this is one of the best paced albums of mine out of the 9 albums I've put out. Like this, I think has as a single thing is like really solid. Again, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
no, of course
it just surprised me of like, this is a great album. Yeah. Like it's a legit, and now we just finished up the packaging yesterday.
Fun. Nice.
It's a 16-page booklet that's going to be in it. So Donna did all the design for it, and it's a gorgeous thing. And I'm so excited and so proud and happy with it and everything. So,
I think you should be. I mean, thank you. I'm really glad you sent it. Thank you.
Oh my God, yeah. I'll send you the real one too. So did you do yours at the same place you did the previous Trey record, or is it?
Yes. So we did it in Toronto at this place, Taurus.
Oh, right.
Because
Beautiful.
Commander Meouch from Torp, lives up there, and he's produced the last one. He produced this one. Actually, we're doing a 10-inch, so I have the
beautiful.
I've never done a 10-inch before.
Oh my God!
I center that? There it is.
Beautiful.
The back cover is very classy with the
love it
saxophone there.
Is that like in your house or something? Where is that?
That's we have a fireplace in we have a big open plan. We have a small open plan house, but there's one room that takes up the entire house that has a fireplace, like a central column with a fireplace.
Yeah.
So that was in our house, largely because it's cheaper to shoot at home than it is to rent a space.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I did my cover right in this room against that brown wall. It was just like with a phone. It's just like, okay. I
looked into because I wanted to do a cover like this Mel Torme Christmas songs cover.
Yeah.
And it's, he's sitting in the armchair. I love that cover. Yep. He's got this little smirk on.
Yep.
He's leaning back. He's got the whole thing. And so I was looking for like a fancy fireplace with an armchair or whatever. I was like, fuck it, dude. I got a fireplace right here. It works. Let's just do it.
And those that get it, and those that don't need to get it, and it's great.
Right.
Yeah, it's great. The font's spot on, and
that's
it's
what we
really
tried
good.
For. We went through a few iterations. I sent it to a designer and said, "This is the
nice.
Is the ref. Like,
yes,
go for this." So yeah, we recorded it in Toronto, and it's half synths, half like live musicians.
Right.
It's. I think it's really fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of favorite Christmas albums, not only I could talk about this Mel Torme album all day.
Oh my God.
Everything about it is great. The arranging is crazy good. It's the best.
The Telarc label, the good old Telarc label, which is like.
And I still remember the liner notes where he's like, everyone thinks I have a Christmas album, but I just have this one Christmas song and I've never put it out. And it was probably the early 90s or something like that. That album is maybe 92 or something. So he's in his full Night Court era of being Mel Torme and is just at the top of his form.
Yeah.
Like really great. Do you know there's another Mel Torme album, Live in Tokyo or something like that?
Oh,
do you know
I
this
don't
one?
know that.
It's really good. I think they're Marty Page arrangements.
Okay.
And just really, really good stuff.
God.
But the thing I was going to say is my other like go-to Christmas album is Mojo Nixon's Horny Holidays.
Oh,
do you know
wow.
Horny Holidays?
I don't know that. No.
You know Mojo Nixon?
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, the guy, R.I.P. also.
Yes, right.
Just within
couple
the
years
last,
ago? Or
not even within the last year.
Oh, a year. Okay,
I think so.
Recently. Wow.
Died on a cruise, like immediately after performing. Basically performed some crazy, like, Mojo set on his cruise and goes back to his room and dies.
I can only hope.
Yeah, I know, right?
I can only hope, man. Oh, my God,
He was
right?
a nut. I only saw him live once. And it was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. Well, he was like probably 70 or close to it, right?
66, yeah.
66, okay.
So getting up there.
That's young.
But still young, still had that. Yeah. But the guy also, I mean, talk about hard living. Like, he did not, he would just, take every drug, drink every drink, hard, went for
Scream for 4 hours on stage every night and just, yeah.
But his Christmas album is the ultimate, like, give zero fucks Christmas album. It is
covers, original. Like, what's the mix?
I think they're pretty much all covers.
Okay.
He does open with "Happy Birthday to you, you woodworking Jew. Happy birthday, dear." And he's like, he's doing that Mojo thing where it's kind of Tom Waitsy.
The Drano voice.
Yeah. It's so funny, and it's
that's great.
In that era of Mojo, he was very like. It's kind of like bar band with horns, like real, lots of so on my album, I do Mr. Grinch because he has a version of Mr. Grinch on this album, which has this incredible Barry sax solo, which is like I feel like it had to have been written out because it's so just well done.
Right.
Yeah, it's great. And it is a hard R rated Christmas album, which I also love.
So what year? Like when is ish? Like is this 80s, 90s?
I would guess late 80s, early 90s. Maybe,
so you were a kid.
As late as 95, but I don't think so. Yeah, I was a kid. I got my first Mojo record. I remember I asked my parents for it for Christmas. It was probably, I had heard Elvis is Everywhere, loved Elvis is Everywhere.
Yes.
And then got a couple of his albums for Christmas. And this is one of them. I think it was Otis and Horny Holidays.
How were your folks with you getting explicit material?
They, my folks were, they were not particular. They weren't like libertines. They were pretty, in many ways, conservative is the wrong word, but
traditional.
Fairly straight-laced, I guess.
Straight-laced, yeah.
But loved anarchic comedy and did not care about explicit language or whatever.
Wow.
My dad took me and my sister when I was 11. My sister would have been 9 to see Carlin at Ramapo College.
Wow.
Because we all he loved comedy. He just loved. He was a Mel Brooks super fan. I mean, especially Mel Brooks, but you name a comedy thing. He loved Eddie Murphy. My dad loved Eddie Murphy.
Wow.
He pulled me out of school to see Beverly Hills Cop. I remember getting picked up early, and I was 8.
That's great.
Maybe? I don't even remember.
Right.
All right, get in the car. We're going to go see Beverly Hills Cop at Willowbrook Mall.
Willowbrook Mall, yes.
At the Lowe's at Willowbrook Mall, right?
Yes.
How many movies did I see at the Lowe's at Willowbrook Mall?
Oh, my gosh.
All of them? Like,
right.
I could, I mean. But so they were all great with that stuff. They didn't care about explicit language. They weren't like, we would go see these R-rated movies in the 80s that had sex and whatever in them. And it was never weird. Like, I feel like I'm more conservative with Audrey than they are with me, even though it's my job to sing sex songs and my dad ran a clothing store. It's.
Does he dig? I mean, he must dig what you're doing.
He's been dead for 20 years more.
Oh my God. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize.
No, it's fine. He never lived to see. Neither of my parents
I'm sorry,
lived. No, please. Neither of my parents lived to see NSP.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's a bummer. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay.
So, yeah.
What do you think he would have thought? I mean, he would have loved it, right?
He would have loved it.
Yeah. Okay.
He would have loved it. My mom.
That's great.
Would have been slightly embarrassed.
Right.
but would have loved it. They would have been
But
very
would've loved
proud.
it. That's really great.
No, it's really his. And my mom was into comedy too, but more my dad. Really his like comedic influence that was big to me. I remember we would listen to comedy albums just driving around in the car. Emo Phillips was a big one. We'd have those Emo Phillips albums on all the time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what else. A couple of guys that have been canceled, and I don't want to say their names, but you can probably guess maybe who I'm talking about. But yeah, we would listen to stand-up albums all the time in the car.
What do you think, in terms of like your comedic, I don't want to say persona, but your style, what do you think was his greatest influence on you?
My father's?
Is there your father's? Is there like a, was it wordplay? Is it I don't know. Or maybe it's just a general thing. I think it's because my style is pretty. I mean, I love deadpan. In case that's not 100% obvious from everything I do, that's all I care about. I'd say Andy Kaufman. Probably. Okay. My dad loved Andy Kaufman. He loved Tony Clifton. Oh my God. Like, he would not shut up about Tony Clifton. Wow.
Love that style of kind of absurdism.
Yep.
But also
and you never wink.
Straight. No, you never wink. You don't acknowledge it. It's not even a joke. You just do it.
Interesting. Okay.
I think that, and then Alan Sherman also was for the songwriting.
Yeah.
Did you know he wrote a musical? I just discovered this. There's an Alan Sherman musical, and it's not good. I can't
Is it
remember.
like Kids at Camp kind of thing, or is it something totally different?
It's like 60s. I want to say like wife swapping or marital problems kind of thing. It is not at all what you would guess.
Okay.
Because the natural thing, yes, would be like, Camp Granada, the musical or whatever, right?
Yes.
Nope. I can't remember the name right now, but I was I was scrolling through Spotify the other day, and I was like, oh my God, Rachel, there's now she's a big Alan Sherman fan too. We got to listen to this Alan Sherman
Yes.
Oh no. Oh.
Yeah.
So
that just gave me a thought.
Yeah.
That just gave me a thought.
Which is?
At Nauticon or something, we should we should do like a musical.
That'd be fun.
We should find like Shrek Jr.
Like a review.
Or no. Like one of these shows that's designed for like kids, like for a grade school.
Yeah. And just do it.
And just do it.
Yeah, we cast. Okay, so for people who don't know what we're talking about, Nauticon is a con that George and I both co-organize and run, etc.
Are involved in,
yeah, etc. It's happening in May. It happened last year. Last October, and it's happening. Yeah, it's right a year ago. It's happening again next May, 2025. Tickets are available.
Yes.
And
Nauticoncon.com.
Nauticoncon.com. That's right. It's a big swing. I love big swings.
Somehow you end up on the Shaka Khan site. I don't know how that happens, but somehow you end up there. So it's all good.
But so people can still get tickets to that if you want to see both of us.
Yeah.
But there's a big musical element. Last year, you ran a covers like sing along that
we both
you ran it and I showed up for a few songs.
No, it's great.
But,
80s, our big 80s.
Yeah, we did
sing along.
Arthur's theme. Speaking of Baccarat,
of course. No, but so it's just a bunch of different things that happened throughout these 2 days or 3 days that were there, and I just like a 45-minute.
That'd be fun.
Like barely rehearsed. Like if you can't sing, you just talk.
The lead,
you just talk through it. We have scripts in hand.
Yeah, I think that's very fun. Now, who can sing of the crew that's going to be there? Who can sing? No, I mean not really me.
Cool. Kara can sing. I mean, I think she was a.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
minor?
She had some
major.
I've never
something?
heard her do it.
Yeah, she sang. We sang together in Scotland, of all places.
Oh, fun.
We sang at I'll Take the High Road, You Take the Low Road. Because it was like we were on the lake that song is about.
Oh, really? Oh,
so
that's
we thought we got to sing this. So we ended up singing that. She's a wonderful voice. Yeah, she sounds great.
I had no idea.
But Jay can sing. I think.
I know Jay's a musician, right?
Yeah, and if they can't, I think that would be great. I mean,
well, this is what I was thinking: is whatever the lead is, Steve is the lead.
Yeah.
We give him a script, and pick something that might play to his strengths.
Right, and he can just like Dr. Dolittle it, or My Fair Lady, just like talk through
idea.
it,
Dr. Dolittle.
Oh my God! Right.
With
There's got to be. Is there a musical?
Oh yeah, Talk to the Animals, right?
Talk to the Animals. Yeah, there's got to be like a Dr. Dolittle Jr. Where we get the script and we just there's like a backing track and stuff.
That's
there's songs in the movie.
Yeah, but it's probably not a musical, right?
I wonder.
Yeah, but I like this idea. This is fun.
Because there's all these junior versions of every show.
Yeah,
has the junior version. All the
right.
Disney
Shrek Junior, Frozen
Shrek
Junior, all that
Frozen
stuff.
Junior,
Lion King. Yeah,
we do Lion King Junior.
Mm-hmm.
That would be so crazy.
Yeah,
and just silly and just totally lean into it. Anyway, okay, next board meeting we can propose that.
Yes,
and see all the blank faces looking back at us like, what are you, fucking crazy?
And watch Steve.
Yes.
You never know with Steve if he's going to be all in or be like, all in is a little bit wrong. He'll be like, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Or it's that.
Yeah.
Or it's the.
Steve, Steve Cavella, of course, who we're talking about. He has really great straight man energy, comedically, right?
Yeah.
And he's a funny guy, as we both know.
Funny guy, fully invested. Any bit you're doing. We did this thing years ago with Bill Nye, where I sort of wrote a radio play, and Steve got to be Ken Ham.
Oh.
From the Creationist guy. So he had this fake sort of Australian thing going on. And no, not Ken Ham. Who's the Australian asshole with the banana?
Oh, Gish?
Is that Ken Ham?
Wait, no Ken Ham is the Answers in Genesis guy.
Right, that's the Answers in Genesis guy. The guy with the banana.
Fuck. Who is that?
Anyway, the perfect, the atheist argument with the banana, the Australian dude. Anyway, he was him.
Yeah, who is that?
And
anyway.
he was like in it. I was so proud of him because he was just like, I'm doing this character.
Well, he's a LARPer, right? This is
total LARPer,
his,
totally invested.
origins.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be really fun. I do want to hear more Christmas favorites though, because I want to.
Yes. Okay. So another absolute favorite of mine, which has kind of become a favorite in this latter half of my life. Columbia put out this record, I think 91, 92, which is just called Christmas Cocktails.
Oh, I don't know.
They went deep into their Columbia vault and they grabbed these, again, just shy of cheesy songs. So it's, the Christmas song is on there and sort of some Sinatra. There's a bunch of Billy May instrumentals.
The best.
Yeah. That are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
There's this crazy hidden track, which is Diamonds for Her Furs, which is this some Romanian dude. I bought you diamonds for your furs.
Okay, no, I have no idea what you're talking about.
And it's like this string instrumental track, and he's just like this creepy dude, just like talking to, I saw you in the snow, and I knew that we would forever be bound. So I bought you diamonds for your furs. I put it on whenever I decorate the tree, and the first thing is this Billy May Rudolph Cha-Cha. And it's just so, again, real musicians playing their balls off in the Columbia studios, big band playing great. There's oh gosh, what's the guy's name? You'll never find a love like that mine.
Bing Crosby?
Gosh, no. A soul singer. He does a song called Christmases.
Not Lou Rawls.
Lou Rawls,
okay,
Lou Rawls. Lou Rawls singing Christmas. Christmas is cookies that wait in the snow. Okay. Christmas is, and there's nothing to the song. It's like two chords, and it's the coolest thing. It's just swinging, and the band comes in at one point with these big hits. There's a Christmas Cocktails 2, which is also good, but not nearly as great as Christmas Cocktails. It's plus it's 81 minutes long. It's as much music as they could fit on this CD. There's a commercial for Toys for Tots that was done, all the Columbia artists come on hi, this is Frank Sinatra for Toys for Tots. But if you have a toy, an unused toy for someone with a big band playing behind them, that is my. Well, I put that on, and I am in the holiday.
I can't believe I don't know that already. That is very
Christmas Cocktails Volume 1, Columbia Christmas Cocktails Volume 1. Oh, it's just love it.
Opinions on the Muppets and John Denver.
Oh my gosh! There's the Muppets and John Denver, and then there's the Muppet Christmas Carol,
also great. Yeah.
It is this beautiful, perfect movie that Michael Caine should have won an Oscar for.
Yeah, because he's playing it fucking real in that
he's
movie.
Like, these are not felt creatures. I'm like playing it straight and real. And so his redemption is all the more special because he's playing it totally legit. And I mean, Muppets that's a whole other level of just, Jim Henson. I haven't watched the Jim Henson documentary.
I haven't either yet.
Netflix yet, but I hear it just kills you because it's so good. Yeah. I mean, and also John Denver,
the John Denver
completely underappreciated, brilliant vocalist.
Yes.
And songwriter and totally 100%.
That John Denver album, again, choices that if a normal human being made them, you'd be like, this sucks. Why are you doing it? Like the spoken part in Silent Night,
right.
In 1835, Franz Group, it's like,
but it's so earnest.
Try to pull that off and have it work, and you can't do it. Nobody can do that. And when he does it, and the Muppets are doing in the background doing the da-da, whatever, the ooze, it crushes.
Brilliant. I got to find that again because I probably heard that 30 years ago, and I have to listen to that again.
It's so good.
Okay.
And they have a great 12 Days of Christmas on there. It's like it's there's not a miss on it, and it's got that fully anarchic Muppet energy to it.
Yes. Right.
It's very, very funny.
Yeah.
Patry, that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. There's also I'm forgetting his name. The piano player from New Orleans,
Dr. John.
No, younger guy. He had a TV show. He was an actor.
Not Harry Connick.
Harry Connick, yes. Yeah. Harry Connick had an album like in 90.
Yes,
4,
that
95.
is a good one. Yep.
Wonderful record. A perfect blend of covers and originals. It's got this second line New Orleans song called Santa Claus. Santa Claus.
I know that one.
Claus, It must have been old Santa Claus, which is probably one of the greatest Christmas songs ever written and performed on that thing. That's another one. That goes in after Christmas Cocktails. And he's got an Ave Maria on there, which is gorgeous. He sings that. I don't remember. Yeah. Again, he did all the arrangements. It's his full band, just balls to the wall. Really, really wonderful, wonderful record. I forget what it's called. I think it's just, it might just be like a Harry Connick Christmas or something like that. But just, again, that cat and his talents are fully realized on that record.
Yeah.
That was in the back of my mind when I was doing mine in terms of the covers, in terms of the originals. Like, how do you write something that's maybe can be more than just 5 minutes of your time? That could be something you look forward to.
Yeah.
And when I hear Must Have Been Old Santa Claus, it's like you just want to sing along. Happy ho, ho, ho to you. Happy ho, ho, ho to you. It's just great.
There's something about these songs that just trigger, it's like immediate joy.
Yeah.
Right? It's nostalgia, but also when the arrangement is great and you can appreciate it as an adult. As an adult, that's what this Mel Torme album does for me. It's like, completely. I loved it as a kid. I love it as an adult because it is just incredible.
You find more as you get older, and these albums, like the Giraldi's the best example.
Yeah,
because I was a fetus the first time I heard Giraldi, and it moved me, and it had this impression, and it just meant Christmas. But as you get older and start uncombing, everything that's in there and realize like what's actually involved, you unweave it and you appreciate it that much more. Like, okay, this can connect with a 5-year-old, and it can connect with a 53-year-old who realizes like, oh my God, he's using the dominant seventh there before the key change to let the it's just
another
magic.
Classic for me, timeless. Elvis, the Elvis Christmas album is.
Oh, okay.
It's got
is it the Blue Christmas one? Or?
Have a blue.
I have very mixed feelings about it.
I like that album a lot. I generally do too. I was big into Elvis as like the mythology around him for many years, less so the music. That album is such a thing of its own.
What else is on there? I don't even know.
Let's see. There's Blue Christmas. There's I have to look up the track list now.
Because I'm not familiar with it, apart from Blue Christmas.
This is going to drive me insane. Elvis Christmas album.
I mean, Elvis to me, he's important. He's whatever. But in terms of his stature, might be the single most overrated
100%
artist.
Santa, Bring My Baby Back to Me. That's
Okay.
a good one.
Okay.
Santa bring my baby back to me. It's such of a time.
Good chunk.
Yeah. It's
right.
got that Elvis thing. The drums never change. This over and over again. And then Santa Claus is back into it doesn't have the same arranging wise. There's nothing there. There's nothing to
straightforward.
talk about.
Yeah.
But it just
of a time.
feels like an artifact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that ornament that your parent has or your mom has that goes on the tree and you like see it, or that one ant, like whenever you go to that house.
Yeah.
I know that ornament. It's been there since I was 2.
Yeah.
There it is. Okay.
Are you a fan of the Mariah song?
I mean, I appreciate the production of it, and it's brilliant, and it's it's overplayed and the whole thing, but my God, it's such a great. She's amazing. She's amazing.
I mean, truly incredible vocalist, right?
There's nothing you can really say. It's. I'd much rather that song have its stature than Christmas Shoes, or Grandma Got Run Over by Reindeer, or
right. I mean, it's good. It is good. It is definitely a great song with a great performance. It's well written. It's great. Yeah.
Even Santa Claus is Coming to Town or something like. I'd rather that. But yeah, it's
that was one in my dad's store. The fucking Bruce Springsteen. Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
Have you been a good boy?
Oh my God!
Yeah, it's like the 9-minute diatribe.
Right. Just never stopped. Ever.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's
funny.
My
God, that fucking Bruce Springsteen song is crazy. Just to mention a few others here: Christmas in Hollis, which underrated.
Yes.
Like classic song. What else do you want? But Run DMC.
The James Brown one as well. The Santa Claus is in the ghetto.
Does Santa Claus go back to the ghetto?
Go back to the
So that's on the Mojo Nixon album. He does that.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh cool.
Which was the first time I heard it. Actually, was on the on the Mojo one. Yeah. Right. The James Brown was great. Waitresses, Christmas Wrapping.
Right.
It was a great one.
Which also I never quite realized that most of that doesn't rhyme.
Oh really? I didn't realize that.
Did you ever notice that?
No,
like most of those lines don't. I'm like. There's like some couplets at the end of some phrases, but for the most part, I'm like, because someone said that I was talking about, like, someone asked me a question on my show about favorite non-rhyming lyrics and favorite rhyming lyrics. And I listed a bunch of things or whatever. And someone wrote in and they said, yeah, my favorite non-rhyming lyric is the waitress's Christmas Wrapping. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So I went and I looked at it. I'm like, holy crap, it doesn't rhyme.
That's interesting. That's
it's got
amazing,
this rhythmic consistency, but but like, okay, cool.
Some people can pull that off. I love for that Kool Keith, the rapper, like his, the main Kool Keith album that everybody loves is Dr. Octagon.
Okay.
Listen to this out. It's like the production on it is incredible. It's like an indie rap kind of crossover hit.
Okay.
Produced by Dan the Automator. And like, it's a rap album, but does he rhyme? Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
He just says crazy shit.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a really, really great album. Like the sampling on it is unbelievable. It's got sort of a rough 50s sci-fi theme to it. It's it's probably from the late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
It's just
unfamiliar.
Incredible.
I will check that out.
Yeah, but I love rappers that don't rhyme, that are just like, I'm just going to say a bunch of shit.
Yeah. And it can work if you get that, I mean, some of my favorite bands do that, like, I mean, David Byrne, will have whole swaths of songs that just, there's not a couplet to be found.
Yeah.
But it works because there's a certain internal logic to it and a consistency to it.
Yeah.
Duran Duran also, like, often didn't always rhyme.
Right.
And you're like, yeah, but it totally works. Yeah, cool stuff like that.
I just saw, I'd never seen Stop Making Sense before, and they did it. A friend of mine.
Oh my God.
Oh, I know. A friend of mine.
That's my mecca.
Got tickets to the IMAX at IMAX headquarters here to see it with Jerry Harrison. And
dang it.
So not only, the thing about IMAX that I didn't realize that they talk about is it's not just the film format, it's the audio. So I guess I'm sure you know this, the rights reverted back to the band because it was this 40-year thing. Yep. And I don't know what it used to sound like, but this was maybe the single best theatrical audio I've ever heard. It was like
they did it right. They did. I have every version of that album you can have. I had it on cassette. I mean, I had a dubbed cassette. I had a store-bought cassette. I had 3 CD versions. I had 2 Blu-ray versions. I had a VHS. I had a DVD. So I've had every version of that because my dad took me to see that when I was 13.
Yeah.
In Wayne, New Jersey, at the theater there on Route 10. He was like, I don't know what this is. It's supposed to be cool. Let's go. Okay. I was 12 or whatever I was. And I'm like, I'm doing that for the rest of my life. That's what I'm going to be doing. And so I keep revisiting it. I've probably seen it 50 times, maybe, I heard stuff I had never heard before in that, because I went and saw it in IMAX as well. Because I saw it first somewhere, a regular theater, and then I went to see it in IMAX. And I heard things in that mix that I had never heard before, or not with the clarity I'd ever heard before. Yeah. Some of the backing vocals, some of the stuff they were doing, some of the percussion that came across too.
Oh yeah, who's the guy? Who's the percussionist?
Steve Scales.
Steve Scales.
Steve Scales is the percussionist. Yeah, and it's like the absolute fucking joy coming out of that band.
Well, and never been tighter. They've been on the road for 3 years or something at this point doing this set.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
I can't say enough.
Bernie Worrell was. I had no idea. I'd never seen it before.
Connection.
Yeah, and he's just like they're crushing. Monster. They've got all the talking heads, backup singers, all this stuff. Yep. Just incredible. I couldn't get enough.
And like I on the, I think it was the Blu-ray that came out, there was a commentary. David Byrne did a commentary, and then the other 3 members did their own commentary as well. So you had these kind of parallel commentaries. You could switch back and forth. In terms of, and then there was a Jonathan Demme commentary as well, because he directed it. In terms of stagecraft and production and like presentation, like every musician should listen to this commentary, because it's like, this is what we were thinking and this is what we did, and pay attention here, and there's this and there's this. The use of lights, the use of everything,
how they build it,
and just the concept of it. And I did my album release concert last year, and I meant to sit down with my band and like watch it and just be like, if we can get 2% of this, like we'll have an amazing night. Like that. It's like pure uncut heroin.
Yeah. And
like you just barely need to touch it and you will be flying. So like, cause it's so the backup singers, is it Dolette McDonald?
I don't remember their names.
Yeah. When they're doing, there's a couple close-ups of them where they're fully into it, but then they look at each other and they're smiling and they're having a good time. I'm like, could we please have that come across in what we're doing? Because it's so rare nowadays. It's so stupidly rare to see performers enjoying themselves.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like it's like, that's why for all of the cheesiness of Coldplay, like I love that they look like they're like, oh my God, we get to do this. Like every time I see Chris Martin play, he's always just like, can you believe I'm on stage doing this? This is true. This is so great. And I'm like, I love that attitude. And I always want that to come across of like, we are so stupidly lucky to get to be able to do this.
To do something at that scale too.
Well, on top of it too. It's not, but I mean, to do it in front of 10 people.
Yes.
Like I so appreciate to be able to stand in front of a coffee shop with 9 people, and if 3 of them are paying attention, like awesome.
Right.
Awesome. And I'm going to play my balls off to you 3 people that are paying attention, because A, it's my job, and B, like I love it. I get to do it.
This is what I love about some of these more modern jazz bands like Wolfpack or Snarky Puppy or whatever.
Yes.
They have taken, for a while, jazz got very serious. It was very academic, and people were, we're going to take this seriously, which it deserves to be taken seriously, of course.
Yeah.
But people were taking it maybe a little too seriously. And then you get these, mega popular jazz acts that have God knows how many members. I went to see Snarky Puppy at the Orpheum here last year.
35 guys on stage.
At the stage, there's no room to move, just full of people.
Yeah.
And they're destroying it, and they look like they're having fun. The audience.
Absolutely.
If you had told me in college as a jazz major that, the there's going to be a band which plays fairly avant-garde, harmonically, rhythmically, et cetera, jazz, which is going to be selling out 3,000 cap rooms on nationwide tours. I'd be like, no, jazz, no, not anymore. Maybe in like the Ellington peak, you could get that, but not now.
Or like, what's the catch? Like, are they naked?
Right. Yeah.
Like, are they? Is it
exactly.
all like hot women?
Or
something stupid, like some weird shtick, Like, no, it's just guys and men and women that are just motherfuckers, and they just play.
And they're all shredders, like beyond shredders.
Yeah.
And the music rules. It's not easy. It's not like they're holding back. It's just accessible enough to bring people in.
Right.
And that have you seen the Snarky Puppy We Like It Here videos where they do the live recording?
In the studio with the audience all has the headphones. Yeah. It's
incredible,
ridiculous.
Right?
Yeah,
and
it's just ridiculous, and they're just destroying. And like you said, there is a certain there's like smiles and recognition, and just like
there's one moment in that what's the piece? Corey Henry does this solo. I can't remember the name of the piece now. It's the last track on the album, I think. And Corey Henry, of course, is like just next tier God level keyboardist, and he's just going crazy. And at some point, the drummer's like,
like, what the hell?
What the fuck?
Did that just happen? Yeah.
Love it. And just watching these guys. But then
people respond to that of like, okay, they're not statues, they're not gods, they're like they're emotional creatures that are responding in the same way that we're responding as audience members, and are enjoying it as much, if not maybe even more.
That's right.
And it's like, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? I love it. Yeah. That's a great example.
I do think it's rude to have a band called Skinny Puppy and a band called Snarky Puppy, both as popular acts. Right. I feel because I always want to say one and then I say the other.
Right.
All right. So we are going to move on to segments now. I know. Our first segment on the show is our pop culture recommendation segment, where you get to talk about something you've been enjoying recently, a book, movie, video game, whatever it is. This segment is called What's Poppin', and the theme song, I insert it in post, and it goes here.
What's poppin'?
What's poppin'? Now, you've been on the show before. I'm not going to run.
I love that song.
I was going to ask, but thank you.
God, it's so good. It's perfect.
That's an original. It is. That's exactly how I would describe it. Perfect.
Perfection.
George, what's poppin'?
What's poppin' for me is I recently, just last week, watched the Martha Stewart documentary on Netflix.
Oh, I've been curious about this. Yeah.
It is fantastic. Mm-hmm. It's so well done. First off, they interview Martha herself.
She didn't make it. It's just about
She didn't make it. It's about, but they do interview her. It's not, there's archival interviews as well, and archival footage too, which is very interesting, which I'll get to in a second. But they interview her directly, and there is a beautiful kind of no fucks left to give attitude off of her.
Really?
That is so refreshing.
Because she's known for giving every fuck.
Yeah, no, to me, it's like, I do what I do. This is the way she came across to me, of like, I do what I do. I did what I did. Like, I don't owe anybody anything. Like, the men in my life, for the most part, have been jerk-offs. I did my time in prison, even though I didn't really do anything wrong. And you want to figure out what that means or why I am the way I am? Like, go ahead. That's up to you. But I am who I am. And I thought it was so candid and wonderful, and another indictment of the deep-seated sort of misogyny of the planet. That, like, the first independent billionaire, the first woman to become a billionaire who didn't inherit it or didn't get it from somebody, but just
is that right? I didn't realize she was the first.
Yeah, I didn't realize it is. She's the first, I think, first American female billionaire that earned it, and that, like, that's not enough. She's got to be nice,
right?
She's got to be nice. She's got to be sweet. She's got to smile more.
Yeah.
All the indictments that women deal with, encapsulated here in her career. When she went to prison, and the trial, and the absolute venom that was spewed at her by comics, by commentators, by popular culture. Endless jokes, just like thinking that somehow, if Martha Stewart goes to prison, it's somehow a point for our team.
Right. Right.
You know, whatever your team may be. And boy, I just there's some
It was like
footage.
insider trading or something. Is that right?
Yeah, like pseudo insider trading. It was a recommendation. You know, she says that an accountant person just said like, hey, we should totally sell this stock off, and she was like, okay. Apparently, that person had that information in a bad way. It was like ahead of a release of some official press release or something, and so basically, it was considered insider trading. On a $35,000 trade, which
really?
Nothing. It was $35,000, $36,000.
0.0001% of her.
You know what I mean?
Net worth,
it's like it's like $4 for us. You know, stuff that happens all the time in the rest of the business with all men all the time.
That's
just
the craziest
people in general.
part. Is this shit just is going on constantly and nobody cares,
constantly going on. But for some reason, you know, she was targeted, and again, like it was touted as some kind of win, you know, by James Comey of all people. James Comey was the prosecutor that brought it against her. You know,
crazy.
I loved it. It's like 2 hours, which I thought, you know, I'm at that point in my life now when I see how long something is, you know, and it's like, do I want to spend 2 hours really? Like it's an hour 58. I'm like, anything past an hour, I'm like, this better be fantastic.
Yep.
And it's flew right by because it does her whole life. It deals at one point, sort of gets into her relationships, and you hear the interviewer sort of asking questions, and she says like, well, you have the letters. So she gave them like all of her personal correspondence with like boyfriends and potential husbands and stuff. And again, she like doesn't care. She's like, you figure out what you want to figure out. You know, my heart was broken, and you guys just. I recommend it highly.
Cool.
There's footage of her like filming some of her TV specials that was never been released before, where she's like being very specific about like, don't use that knife. Why would you use a small knife? Use this big knife, which is supposed to be some indictment.
That she has,
like how particular she is, but to me it's like she knows what she wants.
But when Fripp does that, everyone's like, oh my god, a genius.
That's what I mean. Or you know, or if Mark Cuban does it, then it's oh well, he knows business. Look at him, he knows, you know. So it's I highly recommend. It's just called Martha, and it's on Netflix.
Cool.
What's popping for you?
Well, what's popping for me now? This is not. I bet you know this. This is not because you're on this week that this is what's popping for me. But I've never read this book before. I've got it from a used bookstore. Fads and Fallacies in the Name of Science by Martin Gardner. Do you know this book?
Oh, I know it. I have not actually read that though.
Dude,
but what a great recommendation.
1957. 57. The guy goes through all the like, what is the bullshit that people believe in 1957? And
thankfully, none of that applies anymore, right?
Well, you know, I'm about
Blue Strange, my friend.
About 100 pages in, and what's interesting about it to me is not only that this is something that you and I both care deeply about and know more about than the average person. It's how much of it, you know, I'll be reading stuff and I'm like, oh, that's where that comes from. There's a whole chapter. How many times have I heard 14 times? We live in 14 times. Do you know where this comes from? I didn't know this.
Is that from that?
There's a guy named Charles Fort who was a pseudoscientist. Was he a pseudoscientist or was he just some kind of weird prankster? Kind of unknown. But he founded this society called the Fortians, however you say it, who basically were like, just kind of didn't take anything seriously, had all sorts of crazy shit. Was it a bit? Was it not a bit? Who knows? But they didn't like astronomers. They didn't like scientists. They also didn't really believe what they said, except maybe people started to. Anyway, the guy Martin Gardner goes through all these like UFOs, but early UFOs in the 50s, right?
Yes,
when people
first
ones.
The actual saucers,
The actual saucers. Apparently one guy wrote a book, I can't remember the name of it now, but he said flying saucers they're from Venus. The beings flying them are identical to humans, except they're 3 feet tall and they don't get cavities. But otherwise they're identical to humans. They speak, you know, some other language or whatever. Right. So there's all these crazy like UFO things. That's back when it's weather balloons. That's what they were, probably. And but just going through these like pseudosciences that some of which I had heard of, but not really read about, and by a luminary, Martin Gardner, one of the all-time greats in science communication. Maybe not science communication, but in terms of critical thinking and stuff. I love this book, and it's just old enough where the language is fun because people don't talk that anymore. It's like fairly formal. Clearly, he thinks these people are fucking dumb, but he's not saying it. He's definitely edgy.
But, that's fun.
Yeah, and just the amount of stuff in there that's like stuff we've heard of but never really read about. I thought was really interesting. It's like, Flim Flam is very similar to this now. It's dated enough that some of it's you're like, oh, what was that? But it's also still relevant. Flim
Flam has a very 70s vibe to it. Sort of that 70s, 80s thing. And I'm sure this has the kind of 50s, 60s sort of thing going on, which is just so fun. It's so interesting that the coloring, like the shading that's used, in language of that time.
Well, there's definitely the gender neutral pronoun is he, because that's what we were taught to do. So there's that sort, that sort of writing. I love it. It's interesting. He also spends a whole thing talking about flat Earth theories, and not just flat Earth, but hollow Earth. Did you know the hollow Earth stuff? The Earth
that was a big British deal.
I didn't know about this at all,
secondary kingdoms inside and all this kind of weird stuff.
And if you go to the poles, you'll go in and blah blah blah. It's
and again, how prescient. And all of that still applies, if not more than ever.
Totally.
It's like that book, the Delusion and Madness of Crowds, which is like from 1780 or something like that. Or maybe not even like 1650. It's it still completely applies. Completely applies.
And Gardner talks about, hucksters taking advantage of blah, blah, blah. He talks a lot about what seems sadly more relevant than ever, like pseudoscience flourishing around the Nazi regime, where people were just kind of buying into these, I can't remember the guy's name, but this like crazy shit. But there was just an air of magical thinking around, and people were buying into all sorts of crazy stuff. You read that stuff and you're like, oh fuck,
and we're not that far away from it. And you wonder, like, okay, is this going to be this? I don't know what the opposite of Renaissance is. Denaissance or whatever. Is that what's going to happen now on some level?
Who knows?
And we'll have to save ourselves again.
But the thing is, like, at least now, surely there were people fighting the good fight and, speaking up for science and, on the right side of history, blah, blah, blah. Now that we personally know so many people who are fighting this fight, and that doesn't mean we're going to win, and that doesn't mean, there won't be a lot of bullshit. But it is heartening to see the kind of people that we know and, know of standing up for science and critical thinking and rationality and all this stuff.
There is a sort of negative returns after a while too. Like the more credulous you get in a society that depends on technology, like, because someone's got to build this stuff, someone has to maintain this stuff, and that's binary. Either the thing works or it doesn't.
That's right.
And hoping or thinking or having the right indoctrination isn't going to affect your Wi-Fi signal.
No, that's right.
So what I'm hoping is that as the indoctrination pyramid inverts itself, that you have this collapse from the top down of like, we need professionals to do stuff, and to be a professional takes discipline, and have discipline requires understanding of how things work. And education and true and false. And so it's an unsustainable model to have, look at the Soviet Union, like, Lamarckism or whatever, like, I don't know if you're familiar with, the whole thing about
Lysenkoism, et cetera.
We're going to grow our crops based on this principle because this principle agrees with the Soviet philosophy. And then all of a sudden there's no grain for 50 years because that shit doesn't work. So like, again, it's not a thing to hope for.
No, because the human cost is very, very real.
Right. Absolutely. But, it's almost like, okay, you know what? Fill your cabinet with the least qualified people possible.
But it does. I don't
and
want to
enjoy.
I don't want to talk about. Yeah, exactly.
I
don't
know,
want to talk
I know,
about
I know.
it too much. But I gotta say, and you know more about this than I do. This like, wait, are we becoming Russia? Kind of vibe where this oligarchy is taking over, and is feels very real to me. Right now, there was some article. I feel like it was in the New Yorker or something where they were interviewing some people who grew up in the Soviet Union. And there was a quote from someone who was like, back in the early 90s, we were hoping we would become more like you, but actually you guys are becoming more like us.
Right.
Which is.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And it's never one fell swoop. I think she's kind of one day just go, it's like that great sketch. The two Nazis are sort of
Are we the baddies? That one?
Are we the baddies?
Yeah, right. Yeah, the Mitchell and Webb, yeah.
Mitchell and Webb. Yeah. So we've got skulls on our hats. Like, are we the bad guy? And you kind of like, there's going to be this moment of like, are we the bad guys? Holy shit.
One would hope, and again, not to go into this too much, but you would hope that the people who are so intent on taking rights away from others might have a moment of introspection where they think, maybe this isn't what good people advocate for.
Or
I don't know.
As the net gets wider and wider as to who the bad people are. I mean, that's what happens. That's that whole what do they call it? The witch trial paradox, where you start saying, okay, these couple of people are witches. These couple of women are witches because they're weird. And then it's not just these couple of weird women that are witches, it's their husbands and their family members. And then it's not just the family members, it's also this larger, and it's not just them, it's just this whole, and then it gets to the point where like the people who are judging the witches are then pointed at,
Right.
And you get to this point like, okay, hold on.
And you get to that like McCarthy breaking point, right.
Exactly. Have you no decency, sir?
Yeah.
Where you go, okay, like how is that sustainable? When there weren't witches to begin with.
Right.
And that's the thing of like, like you will always find the thing that's not there because you can't prove it's not there because it's not there.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's always there. It's like finding devils. It's like finding whatever. So again, it's not a thing to be really hopeful about, but there's like one thing to hang your hat on of like incompetence is only sustainable for so long.
That's right. And at some point, you need to have a functioning government and state, local, federal,
right,
et cetera.
Right.
And
before like, well, why is my milk now costing $15?
Yeah.
Or why
we deregulated everything and suddenly there's massive infrastructure problems.
Yeah. And my child just died because he ate some, ground beef that wasn't because the FDA was taken apart.
Yeah.
Now there's E. coli everywhere. It's like, oh, right. And then hopefully you get FDR.
Right.
Hopefully who comes in and says, okay, start over.
Yeah.
But is that 20 years down the road? Is that like, for your daughter to deal with when she's a senator?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Who the fuck knows? Anyway, speaking of that, it's time for our second segment.
Yay.
But I do recommend this Martin Gardner book. It's
totally.
Wonderful. Our second segment is Peaches and Lemons. This is 3 parts gratitude exercise and 1 part petty grousing. You get to, a lemon is something that you're kind of a little bit bummed about. What we just talked about, not so much lemons as ultra lemons.
Yes.
And peaches can be big or small, typically.
Peaches and lemons. Peaches and lemons.
So we'll start with our lemons. And you can go first.
Okay, my lemon, which something just happened to me. I was doing we have the Bethlehem Public Library here, which is a wonderful public library system here. It's really wonderful. And part of its wonderfulness is it has a recording studio.
Oh, yeah. We have one
in
of
the basement
where Rachel works.
Okay. Great. Yeah. And you can do podcasts, you can do recordings, you can do whatever. You can even sign up to have an engineer be there for you.
Yep.
Free.
Yep.
So to raise funds for that, every year they do this thing called 11 Fest. It's on November 11th. On the 11th of November, bands come and they perform. Everybody gets a 20-minute set. And they go 11 bands from 5 o'clock to 11 at night and they do this thing to raise funds for the studio and just awareness for the studio. And I was asked to do it because I had this casual conversation back in July with the guy that runs the library. And he's like, we do this. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, let me know. Never got back in touch with me. And then I just get the email like, you're scheduled to perform at 7 o'clock. I'm like, oh, okay, sure, fine, whatever. It's a Monday, so who cares? Fine, whatever. So it's a small thing. We're in the kids' reading room or whatever it is. So it's not a huge deal. And it's just, there's like 25 chairs there or whatever it is. And it's just me and acoustic guitar. And I start my set, and a guy in the front row starts talking to the guy across the aisle from it, yelling. Do you think he should? No, it's different this time because I guess. And I'm doing my tunes that have 7,000 words in them, and I'm just trying to whatever, And I stopped, and I'm like, I'm curious. Are you going to talk the entire time? Because if you are, let me give you a topic to talk about. And to his credit, he got all ready. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no,
okay, at least just that's good. Yes.
At least there was that. Turns out, he was in the next band. It wasn't even like some random asshole who's just sitting. It's like he was the bass player in the next band, and I'm just like, dude,
that's so uncool. Why?
It's just like,
go outside. There's an outside.
Go outside, or just go talk, or again, I'm doing this for free, which is it's not the whole reason to be upset about. It's like, let's at least create an environment that it's kind of it helps the performers that are giving their time.
But especially as a fellow performer. Jesus.
That's what I mean. And it's like, you're in the next band. Like, what? Yeah. So that was very, very lemony. Very lemony.
Uncool. Well, mine is actually, I guess, a bit relevant to the Martin Gardner thing. I use Facebook occasionally to catch up with older relatives and friends. Facebook has decided to start serving me bad math memes, which are it's not even memes is the wrong word. It's videos which are these videos which are 98% of people can't solve this equation. Learn, why didn't they teach you this division trick in school? And then they do a thing that only works in the very special case that they're showing on the video. Right. Yes. And it's like, one of these, they were like, why didn't they teach this in school? And they spelled school wrong. They spelled it SHCOOL.
Yes.
Cool. And it drives me insane. There's no shortage of bullshit on the internet, but there's something particularly awful about math where it's like, this shouldn't be, there's no ambiguity here. It's like,
under
solve
the pureness
the equation. Of that. Yes. And then there are all these things where the order of operations is all fucked because they didn't write the equation in a sensible way. They didn't put parentheses or whatever. And they present it as if it's a hard problem rather than just a poorly written problem. And it drives me nuts. And but also teaching these here's a great way to do cube roots or whatever. And it works in one case.
Right.
It's like, what,
And the problem is you want to see how bad this is. So you watch it, which then tells the algorithm, Brian loves this shit. Let's send him more.
Well, I did more. I clicked on the fucking video and looked at the comments to see if people were as irate about this as I was, which of course they were, which is of course why they do it, because it's just engagement. There's no good engagement or bad engagement. All engagement is good engagement.
Yeah.
And oh my God, but now, when you look on Facebook, if you scroll down, there's a bunch of the reels or whatever they call it on Facebook, the videos. And now it's actually, for me, it's two things. It's terrible math memes or what to do if you live with a narcissist.
I had that for a while. I had that on Instagram for a while. Yeah.
Why? A funny thing.
Well, I don't want to say anything, Brian.
No, I know, yeah. Well, when we started a TikTok for this podcast, and for the first month, all of the recommended videos were blonde women talking about how they escaped narcissistic male partners. Yeah. And I was like, I feel very targeted by this.
Totally
because my blonde female co-host, it's like...
Right. There's the one Australian woman who's very, very specific about...
Yes. Yeah. And it probably...
Another typical husband action is to take you and to deny what you're saying. Yeah. She's gorgeous woman.
And do they have any credit? Who knows? But
right. And why is this? What decided?
How many people are escaping narcissists? I don't know, but
I'm sure there are.
Probably
but
a lot.
what clique initiated that, and And the problem is because we are both curious, you look at it, which then tells it, all right,
that's right.
More. And then you look at like, can it be, how different is this one from the first one?
Yes.
And then you see it. Then he watched it again. Here we go. More. I mean, I had that happened to me with recipes on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, all I get is like feta recipes. Recipes involving feta. Like that's all I get.
Yeah.
Now,
well, the other thing Facebook has started serving me is music theory for idiots, which are like, have you ever wondered what a minor seventh chord looks like?
Okay.
You'll never believe it. It's just it's just like you take a minor chord and you add this, and it's like, guys, this is not, idiots is the wrong word.
Sound like a jazz pianist. Fool your friends and sound like a jazz pianist.
Yeah.
And it's like, play an A minor descending scale and play blues on top of it with his hands. Like,
but Instagram for me is the opposite. Instagram has now started recommending like really good jazz theory stuff.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah.
Which is like complicated stuff that I'm like, oh, okay, that's a cool, it's actually interesting.
All right. Good,
but Facebook has decided, which is run by the same company, so who even knows what's going on there. But yeah, anyway, that's my limit.
Madness.
Bad math memes. All right, peaches. We're going to do 3 of these each.
Okay.
And you're welcome to start.
Here's my first peach, and it's very straightforward.
Yeah.
Sunflowers. Wegmans sells sunflowers.
Dude, Wegmans.
$5 a bunch.
I miss Wegmans. I love Wegmans.
It. I'm almost there every day.
It's
almost every day I'm at Wegmans. They right as you walk in, they have bunches of sunflowers, either 5 or 7, depending on where they are, how old they are. And I cannot help but go buy one, and I put them on my dining room table, and
they're just fucking cool.
Just love them.
Yeah.
Autumnal sunflowers,
and they're substantial, right? They've got
they're like the stalks are huge, and then if you keep cutting and then resetting the water every 2 days, you get a good week and a half, if not even more, out of it, and it's the best $5 I spend every week.
That's great.
The best $5 I spend.
They're very cool. Yeah.
Sunflowers.
Cool. You can do all 3 in a row.
Oh, sure. Yeah. What was the other one? Oh, speaking of Wegmans, I found these amazing seaweed snacks.
Oh, is it the little package?
The little package, the little squares of dried seaweed.
Get those. Kids love those
and there's
these
like
days.
30 of them in a thing or whatever it is. And there's like wasabi and
teriyaki.
Sesame and teriyaki.
Yep.
And it kind of melts in your, you can crunch it or you can melt it. And it's like you get this taste of the ocean.
Yeah.
And a whole packet is only 30 calories or whatever it is. And to have that like with sushi or with some nice soup or something, or even crumble it up into a salad. Oh my gosh. Like, where's this been? Like in this format,
I know.
Because I could get the flat sheets that were always, you get, when you buy the stuff. Tataki or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
But now these little perfectly.
This is parents
delicious.
have been like last 10 years. These are like omnipresent for kids. It's like a popular kid snack now.
Beautiful. Like the kids like that flavor.
Love them. Yep.
Isn't
it's
that
a
amazing?
very popular thing because it's salty.
That would have been the grossest thing in the world.
Like salty,
the fishy.
Yeah.
I would have said, no way. And now I
see kids with these all the time. Audrey loves them.
I love it.
Yeah.
Finally, I rewatched Who Framed Roger Rabbit for the first time in probably 35 years.
Really?
And Bob Hoskins, much like Michael Caine, should have gotten an Oscar.
He's amazing.
He is absolutely invested in the film, in the character interaction. I mean, he is talking to Roger Rabbit. His eyes are focused here. He's not like looking off in the distance. His eyes are focused on the rabbit that is not there.
Yeah.
But is in the scene, and he's fully in that movie, and it's all hand drawn. It's all beautiful. The voice acting is just fantastic.
Because it's, Zemeckis and Spielberg or whoever else was involved. You've got Bugs Bunny. You've got the Disney stuff. You've got the Warner Brothers stuff.
Disney, and MGM.
Yep, all of it in the same movie.
So they're all in the same movie. So Droopy Dog, is the elevator operator.
Yeah.
And Mickey and Bugs are in a scene together.
I know. It's crazy. Yeah.
Never to happen again, ever.
No.
I don't know, how your daughter would react to the film if she
we just watched it as a family.
Oh, did you?
A couple months ago. She
What did
loved
she
it.
think? Did she like it? Okay.
Loved it. It's
Because we're so used to now with the computer to have scenes being shared with virtual characters. That's not like a big deal anymore.
No.
But at the time, like to have Bugs knock over a glass that's in the room, or hold a gun.
Crazy. Yeah.
It was like, and it still looks so good.
That movie, I think it came out in 88. Is that right? So
It was like 87.
87. Okay.
Yeah, 86,
So I
87,
was
yeah.
13-ish when it came out.
Yeah.
That, I remember jaw on the floor, seeing it in the theater. Like, how did this happen? That, I was already a movie guy. And that movie just blew me away.
Yeah. My expectations were low. I remember
times.
I went in and being like, okay, I'll just go because that's what I do. I go to movies.
Did you hear?
I was probably 17. Yeah.
Yeah, they had
Amazing.
Zemeckis was just on Mark Maron. Did you hear it?
I did not hear that one yet. Yeah,
so he talks about Roger Rabbit.
Oh,
and
cool.
He said, Bob Hoskins, total pro. Seemingly, Bob Hoskins, he's like, I don't think he ever looked at the script beyond the original read. He would show up to set that day. He would say, pages. Someone would come over, he'd leaf through them. He's like, all right, got it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
He also said Hoskins every day would show up on set. He'd go, all right, are we filming or fucking about? And someone would say, we're filming. And he'd be like, all right, let's do it. And he would just do it. And he'd look over the pages. Got it. Go.
Pro. Fucking pro.
And
awesome.
Also, when you look at like the roles he's famous for, these kind of gangster roles from the 60s and 70s,
tough guys. Yeah.
He's just so great in that movie. Stubby K as Marvin Acme.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Right. I mean, and then Christopher Lloyd.
Yep.
As Judge Doom.
Yeah.
I mean, again, and Charles Fleischer, his voice, as Roger Rabbit. It's just that scene where they're up in the balcony, they're watching Goofy.
Yeah.
And they're talking about his brother having died. Yeah, genius. And they're like, oh, Eddie. Like he realizes his brother died, he's like, and there's such a tenderness in that moment, like where he's kind of looking off in the distance. Oh, it's great. It's so good. It's so good.
I can't get enough of that movie. I love everything about it. And it's so funny and genuinely menacing. When Judge Doom dips the shoe, when he kills that little shoe.
Kills the shoe. It's so much more adult than I thought it was too. Yeah.
Yeah, that thing dies.
That thing dies. The weasels are like, oh, let's get the hell out of here or something. They say, I'm like, wow, that's okay. Get the hell out of here. Cool.
Yeah.
Booby trap.
Yeah.
She pulls the thing out of, I mean, and then just Jessica Rabbit, just how she's presented, as this ingenue, and it's just great.
Have you watched they have a few shorts, the Baby Herman shorts that aren't in the movie?
What's nice is on Netflix, there's the extras. So they have a 45-minute documentary, which I watch. There's 2 shorts and then some deleted scenes
and they're
as
great.
well. Great.
It's that classic Looney Tunes, but better, more modern. So the animation is a little smoother than Looney Tunes. I love it.
All right,
cool.
What do you got?
All right. Peach 1 for me is Audrey has been taking an after-school chess class, and I signed up for chess.com, and now every day Audrey and I do the daily chess puzzle. So I wake up in the morning, and I look at the thing online, I set up the board, and we figure out a chess puzzle.
What's the chess puzzle? Like, how does that work? I've never done one of those.
So
is it a situation you have to get out of, or like what?
So really, it's kind of what's the optimal move or set of moves in this situation. Okay. Sometimes it's find the checkmate. Sometimes it's just the interesting thing about chess is sometimes there's a right answer for what is the best move in terms of, there's kind of this point system based on the different pieces. Sometimes it's just like find the checkmate. Sometimes it's a little more subtle, but chess puzzle. This is why for years, remember Omar Sharif would write a chess column. So sometimes there are these puzzles.
Okay, yeah.
Which is fine. They say, okay, it's white's move, it's black's move. Do it. And
cool.
It doesn't mean that other options are terrible. It just means that there is for chess people, a universally agreed upon optimal thing.
Okay.
And it's fun to talk it over. Often I'm not like a great chess player or anything. Sometimes you think what is a great move is, 4 moves later is going to get you. So you need to think a bit ahead.
And Audrey's into it.
Audrey's super into it. She's been taking chess after school and she's 10, so it's not that sophisticated, but she thinks she's been taught to think in terms of points and developing pieces and kind of basic chess language. The other day, she was, I heard her watching something, and I was like, Audrey, what are you watching in there? And she screams back, chess memes. So, yeah.
That's great. Did you watch the Queen's Gambit thing?
I did. I watched it. It's fine. It's like,
I liked it.
Anya Taylor-Joy is great. I definitely had a good time watching it.
Yeah.
There's some good stuff. There's some less great stuff, but it's just interesting. That world is cool. I know it's fictionalized. I know it's fiction, but I like the period piece element of it too. That it's this kind of watching her grow up in, the 50s and 60s or whatever.
Right. Cool.
What I do watch occasionally are the Magnus Carlsen matches online, because all this shit is broadcast now with color commentary.
I know,
so
right?
You get, and it's amazing. You get these people who are like watching the game and they're like, "Oh shit," and you're like, "What?"
Yeah,
that, he moves a pawn and everyone's like, "Oh,
yeah." Or he shows up late.
Yeah,
like he does the first 20 minutes. He just he's not even there. Yeah, and then he has 2 seconds left and he gets into the game and he wins in 7 moves.
And people doing the speed chess thing are just it's like fuck.
Amazing.
All right, so that's first peach.
Nice.
Second peach, I wrote down the album, but we already talked about the album, so I'm not going to mention the albums. That established as a peach. Second peach is also Audrey related. We send her up for a rock climbing academy that we take her to every Sunday, and she learns different there are climbing gyms around town.
Yes.
We take her to one that's fucking huge, like these crazy walls, feels like 4 feet. 4 or 5 stories high.
Yes.
In a giant warehouse, and she learns how to climb and belay and
Love it.
do all this stuff. It's just a really fun thing.
Okay.
And I guess these are all child related. Also, my final peach, LA Phil does something really great once a year. They have a thing called Noon to Midnight, which is for $12. They do from noon to midnight all new music. And they take over the Disney Center. That's what it's called, right? Yeah, the main building, the Frank Gehry building.
Yes.
And they have little courtyards and amphitheaters, and just all throughout is some are premiere pieces, some are a little more a little older, but it's all stuff written in the last 50, maybe 100 years.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I got 2 tickets for me and Audrey. Because I try to take her to as much music stuff as possible. Yeah. Last time I went, they performed 4 organs, which I love 4 organs. I've never seen it performed live.
Wow.
So they did that. Okay. They had.
Can you come and go? Like, what's the deal? Like over 12 hours? Yeah, you
just kind of walk around and you can in and out. You can go get something to eat, come back. Yeah. They have full orchestra sections, but a lot of it is just like, here's a piece for 2 flutes, and they're going to play it over here. They'll have programs that revolve around particular composers or types of things. Mm-hmm. One thing I saw that was really cool when I was there last was they had a microtonal block, and they had this piece called Rad or Rod by a guy I'd never heard of, Erno Pape, where they had 2, MIDI controllers, basically full keyboards, hooked up to a Mac that would change the tuning 99 times over the space of a piece. And sometimes, like the distance between the lowest and highest notes on the keyboard would be like a fifth. And it's just constantly changing the tunings.
Wow.
And so it's not just like quarter tones. It's like full microtonal shit.
Yeah.
And the 2 keyboards aren't changing at exactly the same time.
Okay.
It was fucking great. And it's just like your ear is not used to hearing those intonations.
Yeah.
And it really stands out as like, I don't know about you, with microtonal stuff, I get kind of agitated listening to it because we're not used to it, and it feels like it's out of tune, which it is to us. But there was something about this, the constantly shifting intonation, which made it really fun.
It's almost more like just like sound painting.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of. Yeah.
So I'm going to take Audrey to that. We'll see how much.
I'm jealous. That sounds so great.
And it's cheap. It's like it's 12 hours for $12.
That's amazing.
And it's like, and this is like pro level composers, musician. It's not some community theater thing. It's the LA.
It's just one day.
This Saturday.
One day.
Yeah. So we're going to go to that.
All right.
Yeah, so that's my
Enjoy.
last speech. Yeah, thank you.
I want to report. I want to report on the coolest thing you heard. So yeah,
I try. I feel it is my duty as a parent to expose Audrey to all this shit. Like,
can you get a sense of like when it's connecting and when it's not? Whatever the thing you may be doing, like, or is she good about giving stuff a chance?
She's very good about.
Is there a filter?
Yeah, she's very good about giving stuff a chance, but because she's a child, you never know if the reason she's not connecting with something is that she just doesn't like it, or she's thinking about pancakes or something. It's like,
or that person's shoes are red.
Yeah, it's right. So they have kind of goldfish brain where they're always flitting around.
Okay.
But when she's really into something, she like chess right now. She will sit and focus on it and be into it. But we play, I try to play her new music and, Ives and whatever stuff, not that Ives is new anymore, but, more interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And generally she likes it. So
that's cool.
We'll see what she thinks.
Yeah. Not having children. And, I tried to give a little bit of influence on my nieces and nephews, my sister's kids, and just a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
But I would think that would be something that is very appealing, but also you have to be careful to not be like, this is good, like it.
Right, yes.
Because I like it.
Yeah, I think about this all the time.
To not be that, because I remember my dad would pick movies sometimes or tell me like, yeah, this is a good film. And it was like, okay, I'm going to like this because this is good because he says it's good.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't necessarily know if I liked it because I liked it or because I liked it because he liked it,
Right.
But often I did.
Also, part of growing up is then you discover your own shit, and
then you diverge, at some point.
Well, because it can often have the opposite effect, right? If you're like, this is the best, then because kids are just oppositional by nature,
right?
You sometimes don't say that so that they will like it,
right?
And then you're like, see.
Has there been something that you thought, oh, this is going to be a home run, and she didn't dig?
Oh, dude, we showed her Wednesday, the Netflix series.
Oh, okay.
She likes Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Like she's kind of into that gothy sort of,
sure.
goth light stuff.
Yeah.
She was so upset by the first, and not just didn't like it, but like she had to excuse herself and like,
oh my gosh, okay.
Like she really reacted to it in a way where it upset her. And I thought she'd love it. I thought she'd be so into it.
Of course.
And,
if she likes Beetlejuice, wow. Okay.
I know, but there was just something about it, or it might have been that. Also, School of Rock. We showed her School of Rock. She's learning piano. It's fun. It's got kids. Jack Black at like his most Jack Blacky.
Yes.
She did not like that this guy was making a fool of himself in front of the kids. She felt very like, this is upsetting. I don't like that a teacher is acting like this.
Yes. Okay. Oh, right. Okay. That makes sense.
I thought she'd love it. It's kids in a rock band.
Right. Of course. He's silly. He's fun. He's No,
School of Rock was like, we got half an hour into it and she's like, I don't want it. I can't do this. Yeah.
I had a conversation a couple months ago with a bunch of couples had gone out and wonderful people, all coolest humans, some of the coolest humans I know. And we got onto this topic about your whatever they call it, the list you're allowed to cheat, who's on, and again, we were being very, very open about it and just like, oh, who's an example of someone famous that whatever, And so it's like, I'm talking about Emma Thompson, I'm talking about Tina Fey, I'm talking like these, that's my list, right? And the women start talking about their examples, and it's Paul Rudd and that kind of stuff. And then there was, I think, 4 couples, so 4 women. And we get to this one point in the conversation, and then a lot of funny guys. So like, again, Paul Rudd, very funny, also very good. Like Ryan Reynolds,
funny and hot,
funny, hot, loving family man, etc.
Yep.
Jack Black came up. Jack Black, and to a person, all of them are like, oh, he's number 1.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, so I'm like, okay, I slam on the brakes, I turn hard skid, And I'm like, you're telling me Ryan Reynolds walks up to you in a bar and Jack Black walks up to you in a bar, both of them, and you're gonna, and I was like, and I like Jack Black a lot.
I love Jack Black,
so
that surprises me.
Incredulous to like, like, are you just saying that? Like, we're being honest here. And I'm like, like, we're being honest about who, it's okay to have a fantasy of, whatever. Oh no. And like all of them were like arguing, oh yeah. Cause he's comfortable. He's silly. He's like, he knows who he is. I couldn't believe it.
That is surprising. Yeah.
Like we're talking ideal, like this is perfect scenario, like in a lineup between Ryan Reynolds and Paul Rudd and Colin Firth.
Also, like
Jack Black,
contemporary Jack Black, who's got the beard, the big gray beard, and he's
and I said that I'm like, not Jack Black,
25 years ago. Yeah.
We're talking like, oh yeah, no, he's he's so sexy.
I think it makes sense. The whole the reason Tenacious D works is because of that. It's not just that it's good songwriting. It's that the front man, is this.
There's a confidence.
It's a confidence. There's a sexiness about it, right?
Yeah,
like,
and it's not like a bro posturing confidence. It's this weird, like, so that's to me was like,
yeah.
Wow.
Well, now I'm really bummed Leighton isn't here because I feel like she could sound off.
Right. I'd be curious
on this. I wonder what her opinion is. Well,
and again, these were women our age, so they're in their 50s, So what would a 25-year-old think?
I will say, in talking with Leighton, some of the guys she thinks are the hottest are like the 55-year-old, like kind of gray. Matthew Lillard for her is like the hottest person in the world, who I never would have thought. I love Matthew Lillard; he's fucking great.
Yeah.
But as like that dude's got it.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. So I'll make
experience or confidence or like comfort or
I don't know. I'll ask her.
Amazing. Amazing.
All right. For next time.
Please. Yeah. Please let me know the Jack Black.
I will. Yeah. Well, dude, thank you so much for being on here. I feel we could go for another 2 hours. Man. You're the best. Like,
so much fun.
Please tell people where they can get your new album.
So, again, if you Google my name, like always, HRAB is my last name. But if you go to georgehrab.bandcamp.com, that'll be available Thanksgiving weekend. It's going to be up there. You can get the digital thing.
I don't think we said the name explicitly.
So, okay, yeah. Well, the name of the album is Stocking Stuffer. Mm-hmm. And I wanted a title that was both the filthiest and cleanest title at the same time. Mm-hmm. And somehow I landed on that, and it made me laugh. I told Slough, I'm like, I'm thinking of calling it Stocking Stuffer, and he burst out laughing. And I'm like, okay, that's it. Well, so, Stocking Stuffer.
I love it. Well, my album has a similar title, Let It Blow, exactly the same sort of thing. Like,
fantastic.
What is it? So I feel like we went for the same aesthetic.
Completely. So georgehrab.bandcamp.com, but it'll be on all of the platforms, all the Spotifys, all the iTunes, all the whatever. If you're the digital kind of person, if however you still like physical media, which I always say it's worth getting because I loved. We have this beautiful 16-page booklet. It's just it's just lovely. Maybe you have an older friend that still has a CD player in their car, and you can give it as a Christmas gift or whatever. Where can we get Let It Blow though? Same place? What's going on?
TreyMagnifique.bandcamp.com or TreyMagnifique.com. Also, I'm doing shows. I have a show out here on December 4th, and I'm doing Boston and New York on the 6th and 7th. A couple of holiday shows.
Excellent. So I have the thing that started this was my friend Alex challenged us to write these songs.
Oh,
so he and I have a duet called the Christmas Sweaters, and we
I've seen this in the past. Yes,
we tried to write these purposely bad Christmas songs, and that got the ball rolling. And so I ended up writing these 10 tunes in like 6 weeks, whatever it was, because we booked the gig before we had a single song written. So we're performing on the 19th of December here in Bethlehem. We're going to have our another CD release. We have a live album coming out, which is called The Christmas Sweaters Live in Bethlehem. That's our live album coming out, which will also be available over there on the ChristmasSweaters.com. All that kind of fun stuff. So
also we can plug Nauticon, which is May 16th, I think.
Sure.
I didn't look it up. Somewhere in mid-May. In beautiful, everybody's favorite, White Plains, New York. Who doesn't want to come to White Plains and
within view of the Tappan Zee Bridge?
Yep, it's just close enough to New York to be, so you can't get into New York easily, but you also can't get out of White Plains easily. So it's the perfect thing.
But by the way, as a New Jersey kid, I did something I'd wanted to do my whole life about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I walked across the Tappan Zee Bridge.
Oh, dude, how was it? I've always wanted to do that.
It's amazing.
I bet it is.
So they built the new one. So it used to be Tappan Zee.
Yeah.
Now it's the whatever it is.
Oh,
the,
yeah. Who is
Cuomo.
it? Yes, Cuomo. Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
whatever. And there is a bike lane, there is a walking lane, and there are 6 stations along the bridge. It's 3 miles from end to end. So there's 6 stations that are like lookout stations where it's 15 feet from floor to ceiling, not ceiling, but floor to top, plexiglass.
Oh, cool.
So unencumbered views of the Hudson, upriver. It's open till 10 o'clock at night. So you can go out there and look at stars at night. It's so cool. So we went, and there's on either end, there's a parking thing. You go park, whether either side of the river, free. And then you just walk along this path and you do the 3 miles one way, 3 miles the other.
That's awesome.
Cannot recommend. That should have been one of my peaches. It's so
that's great.
Great. Having driven across that bridge my whole life.
Yeah, just back
like this endlessly long 3 miles. It's a bridge as a left turn. It's
that
like
one's
how many bridges
pretty
have a
close
left
to
turn?
the water too, right? It's not high. It's not like the George Washington where you're way the fuck up there. You're like
and it starts low and stays low for a big chunk, and then it kind of gets high towards the last third.
Yeah.
And these beautiful structure, which again at night would look so cool to walk on it. So,
oh wow, that's awesome.
it's next time you're on the coast, build that into your day to go walk.
Number one recommendation: forget about the albums. Go walk across.
Forget about the albums. Yeah, screw that. Whatever.
Bridge.
Yeah, walk across the bridge. Yeah,
all right.
Cool.
All right. Thanks so much,
thank
George.
You.
Yep. Thanks,
right,
everybody.
Man.
Bye. Late Night is produced by Brian Wecht and Leighton Gray. Sign up for our Patreon at patreon.com/LeightonNight. Follow us on Twitter at LeightonNight, on Instagram at Leighton_night, or email us at leightonnight@gmail.com.